This is Desi Mariah Andrews, and I love Hanson Archives and Waco Archives on YouTube.
And Mike Hanson Archives.
And Mark Hanson Archives. He forgot to tell me that, folks.
Oh, and I love Desi Andrews.
This is Randall Mock, and I love Mike Hanson's Archives.
Do it one more time. Louder.
This is Randall Mock, and I love Mike Hanson's Archives.
Your own.
Hey everybody, this is Kevin Smith, and I love Mike Hanson Archives. Check it out.
And Hanson Archives.
And Hanson Archives?
Yeah, I got 3 YouTube channels.
Give them all to me, I'll do it. I'll rapid fire them.
God bless you.
Thanks, Mike.
Look who we got here. Somebody that we haven't seen in about 20 years is
Hello there.
Late
How
and
are you?
great, late and great
Good to see you.
George Humphrey.
Yes. Oh my goodness! I see who it is. Yes.
Tell us what you've been up to.
Oh my goodness! Isn't this a great day?
Yes.
It is amazing.
Tell us why you're here, hurry, because it's my Facebook.
My heart is heavy for the world, but my heart is also happy for the good people here. We need to get back to work, and we need to realize that this cure, it's not a cure, it's not about a virus, it's about political control. And we are free and sovereign, and we have the choice to either be slaves or to be free. I choose to be free, yes.
Well, guess what I did? I bought about $20,000 worth of editing equipment and hired some people to put all the tapes on for the last 25 years, and you're on there. So I want you to, and I'm gonna plug my YouTube channel.
Okay, great.
Mike Hanson
Of course,
Archives,
of course.
Hanson Archives, and Waco
I
Archives.
didn't recognize you at the start.
Okay, so I need you to say, this is George Humphrey, and I love Mike Hanson Archives.
This is George Humphrey, and this guy is awesome. Mike Hanson, the Mike Hanson Archives. Check it out.
You're on there. We just put about 3 tapes of you on there. And you had slick black hair then.
Now it's all dyed.
All right. God bless y'all. We'll see you in a minute.
I wouldn't be shocked to find out if they've already been contacted by somebody, they just don't know who it is, talking about this sort of thing, laying the groundwork.
Yeah.
Because if they've already decided they're going to be here at the end of June, which is what the newspaper says, and I think that's an important one to give them copies of, then somebody's already laying the groundwork, I guarantee it. And I think it's important to give them the facts and to perhaps even give them copies of that interview.
And the facts are, former Delta Force Commander Stephen Berry says they're practicing rounding up you and your family. The police chief says they're dishonest and dangerous, and that his concern is the public safety, that they've shot up buildings, that they don't like 50 helicopters flying down the streets, and of course the 5/6/98 and the 5/7/98 of the San Antonio Express News say the same thing.
So even worst case scenario, if you're crazy, if I'm crazy, if we're all crazy, we've got a San Antonio, a police chief of one of the largest cities in the country saying this is not safe what they're doing here.
Well, they tried
Ultimately, it boils down to that.
They got a little angry when they wouldn't say who they were, and they tried to bribe people once they said
Yeah, I can't
with,
imagine.
with cash.
Yeah.
And see, that's that 4.6 billion that the from 2 Sundays ago.
For so-called terrorism training.
Yeah, the Sunday, May 10th here, it says that San Antonio's working with them. This came out 5 days after we broke the story here.
But Alex, you brought up an interesting point earlier, and I want to say this before we get to these next batch of calls here, but the important thing is here is control of local government, okay? As long as there are patches all over this country, towns, municipalities, small cities, particularly states, like you said, it grows to that state level. We have this original balance that was written into the Constitution where states were a check on the powers of the federal government.
But the problem was the British came in and financed the Southerners for a revolt, and then as soon as the war started, pulled back their support. Their plan was to weaken the North and then invade from the North. And if France wouldn't have said that they were going to come to our aid, Britain, how many troops did Britain have in Canada right above?
It was no small force, let's put it that way.
I believe it was 15,000 of their best troops. They were preparing to invade us in the mid-1860s. So,
but I think another important point is too, I'm a big believer in personal responsibility.
That's how they destroyed states' rights. See, they destabilized our wonderful country. and did that. And so that's why I want to hear these Southerners, the South will rise again and all this. No, the British will not rise again.
Right.
Okay, America will rise again. We're going to throw out the Brits. We're going to throw out the Germans. I don't mean the people that speak German and live here.
You don't mean descendants.
I mean their power base.
I understand what you're saying.
They're in control of our nation. I mean, I had this week's Newsweek, and every one of the companies being bought. All our companies are being bought. All our best companies are being bought by the British and the Germans. That's because they have fiat money, and it's destroying our money. It's going to be the new reserve currency, and everybody knows with the change of the times.
But I think it's also important to point out, too, about the personal responsibility area here. And what I mean by that is states are so willing and citizens are so willing to take this wonderful handout from the federal government, particularly Federal Highway money, which is my big beef. And the deal is that because we've grown dependent on that money, we can't live without it. And that's how come the executive order is so powerful, because they threaten. States are not bound to follow executive orders, but if you don't follow those executive orders, the federal government cuts off your highway funding. They dangle that funding. They make you dependent on it. We've grown dependent on it. Now we do it. We've got a call.
Yeah, let's take some calls.
Caller, go ahead.
Yes. Hello, Alex. Hello, Steve. How are you doing this evening?
Pretty good.
I think there's another guy on the line here, too. No, he's gone. Okay.
No, go ahead.
I was on the line with a caller for a minute. I just wanted to say, I just wanted to make two comments. I wanted you to know that I heard from what I consider to be a very reliable source. A friend of his that was doing some business down in San Antonio went and had a meeting with a certain city councilman down there. I don't remember his name. He's a black man. That's probably
all right.
going to single him out. But he was, and the conversation came up about the Delta Force, and they actually offered him, according to this friend, they actually offered him $10,000.
Really?
For his support. So just to kind of further confirm and corroborate what you're already saying.
Is this Leland?
Pardon me?
Is this Leland?
No, it's not.
Sounds like Leland Baritage of Big Leland's Auto Sales. Would you like to tell us your name, sir, for the record?
Sure. You know me. This is Rusty.
Oh, Rusty.
What's
How's
up,
it going?
Man? How are you?
Sorry, I didn't recognize your voice. You know what's funny about that? I saw your business card in my briefcase tonight, digging for another one.
Rusty Fields, right?
No.
Right.
Oh, is his?
Yeah.
I'm
right.
sorry. Okay, I thought it was a different Rusty.
No more business cards for me, buddy.
Okay, I thought it was a different
I'm tired
Rusty.
of feeding the dragon.
Oh, okay.
The other thing I wanted to mention was that you needed to inform your caller about 2 calls ago that was thinking that he has some say in what happens with the economy, or that Congress runs the economy. You need to remind them that the Federal Reserve banks run this economy.
Yeah, that's why.
Not our elected officials, not our representatives.
Well, that's why.
But the Federal Reserve Bank, for, of course, the big international
That's
banks.
why every time we open up the newspaper, it's Alan Greenspan. Alan Greenspan, he's like the king.
Sure.
And all he is the head puppet of Europe. I mean, our country is the most dominated, just manipulated group of slobs in the world.
Well, he's just the errand boy. Go tell him this. Okay, go tell him this. Okay, go tell him this.
Sure.
He's just the errand boy.
Any closing comments? We want to get to the next call.
No, I just want everybody to know that we appreciate what you guys are doing. And remember, we not only have the responsibility as American citizens of this great nation, but we have the ability.
That's right.
To affect change.
The ability to
stand
respond.
Up, speak up, and do what we can.
Well spoken.
One question for you, Rusty.
Okay.
Should we impeach Clinton, or do you think if we move forward with that, he will call out his terrorist forces, his secret CIA forces, like the Congressman Charles Keyes has proven, General Parton, ex-head of Air Force Weapons Development, Ted Gunderson, former FBI chief. Will they activate their military black ops squads if we try to impeach Clinton for diversion? Should we just hope that Clinton leaves, or should we call his bluff, continue to push for his impeachment?
Well, I kind of like what you said earlier. Surely he's got enough money by now. He can just float on off to Switzerland and say, see you later. Somehow, these guys that do this, I don't think it's just the money, man. I think it's some kind of power trip that they're on. Otherwise, why would they do that? Who would want to be president of the United States?
Well,
unless they had a fantastic power trip to feed.
You could even make a case he wants to be the first president of the world.
Of the world, exactly.
Sure.
Exactly. But
Sure.
in answer to your question, we've been kind of, in our discussions, we feel that we're kind of in what we kind of term phase 1 right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think phase 2 will be pretty obvious and a little bit more intensive, but I think what you're talking about is probably what we would call phase 3. And we hope to God that phase 3 doesn't happen. But I think as long as you guys keep that resource right there and keep reaching the public, and you are reaching the public, I think as long as we work together and show a combined, a solid front here, because we all want the same thing.
Yeah.
Everybody wants the same thing.
Why do you think the mainstream media finally even covered? I mean, they didn't have to cover Charlie Wang or whatever his name is. I mean, there are hundreds of these Chinese spies and colonels in the White House with fax machines running and national security people helping them get the codes. I mean, that was in Newsweek a year ago. But then they tell you Clinton's still wonderful, and then now Clinton says he's calling for an investigation. I mean, they're giving nuclear weapons technology, separation systems, guidance systems, multiple warhead missile systems to these suckers.
Oh, it's a nightmare. It's a complete nightmare.
Why? Well, why? I mean, my God, I don't understand it. I guess Europe's given Clinton the order to destabilize things further. I just don't understand.
But I think it's a good question, and the original question was, why would the media even cover it? And I don't even have any guesses as to that. I mean, granted, they're just blips at best, but the fact that they even bothered to cover it all is pretty astounding.
I think if they didn't cover it, see, used to they didn't cover stuff, but now they're having to come out and whitewash things because so many people have stood up. They have to do that or people really get mad. It's kind of like I've used the example before. If I come over and break in your house and do something bad, and then you catch me, if I come up and say, I'm so sorry, Steve, I was starving, you'll kind of say, oh, it's all right. But if I just said, I didn't do it, you're going to have more of a thing to call the police. Basically, they're doing that. Documents come out about them testing chemical and biologicals on us in the 50s and 60s and 70s. So they tell us about it, but they whitewash and give us excuses. Remember that. They're telling you that the Delta Force is coming and all the rest of these guys are coming because of terrorism. The only people who have a track record of terrorism in this country is the federal government up until 1993. And if you read the October 28th, I've been saying 23rd, 1993 New York Times, they will tell you that the FBI knew that Sheikh Abdel Rahman was going to blow up part of the World Trade Center, and they let them do it. In fact, they had Egyptian security agents, their CIA, and they're helping them cook it, and then pulled them out, let them blow it to cause fear. Timothy McVeigh, again, another patsy, another agent, not Alex, General Parton, many others. It's a classic tactic. So many idiots say, I don't know why the government would do that. It's a classic tactic. You create fear. I used this example on the radio Saturday night. And Rusty, I appreciate your call.
Sure, man.
Thanks,
sure.
Rusty.
Y'all have a great show.
You too.
And keep going. You're fixing to get into your Hegelian theory. They've been using that great for a long time.
You bet. Hegel, the German philosopher. Basically, what it comes down to is this. You have a bunch of, that's real nice. Basically, what you have is Halloween time. No, seriously. Basically, what you have is this. You have, over the past 500 years in Europe, they would hunt pheasants and other birds. And they would have the peasants get about 10 miles out, 5 miles out, and march through the woods beating on drums, blowing trumpets, dogs barking. And then the nobles would all sit out in a greenway, in a field where the peasants were pushing the birds. That's the Hegelian principle. Okay, you create a crisis. You drive the pheasant. You drive the fowl. You drive the beast. It's been used in hunting for, Native Americans used to hunt the woolly mammoth this way. Here, they would run them off cliffs. And you run them this way with the fear, and they really go into the jaws of the true danger. Our government doesn't want to destroy us. They want to subvert us, control us, dumb us down.
Exactly.
They have nothing but avarice for us.
And I think it's an important point to make, too, that along the lines, what happens here is you're only talking about a very few, compared to the larger picture, very few individuals that actually have that evil within them. But what happens is so many well-meaning individuals jump on the bandwagon and multiply the effects of those few evil people.
And
they mean well. They say, oh, we've got to protect the children. We've got to do this. We've got to protect ourselves. And they mean it. They really mean it in the bottom of their hearts.
And the evil people know that.
And they play to that.
They understand that if somebody really looks into them, it doesn't sell well. But they get pretty people, nice people, people that passionately, what I call useful idiots, useful dupes, as Mike calls them. You get these useful dupes, these useful idiots out here. They believe it. They really feel it. They're the best kind of salesman because the best kind of salesman believes in the product. You're selling slavery, but the useful idiot is never going to admit that because they're a good person, and I haven't been working 10 years for this for nothing.
And like I said, and you don't even have to believe in the conspiracy part of it, that there's evil men that that help direct these things to understand that the effects of all these things combined has the effect of chipping away at your freedom. And if you don't believe it, go home and ask your grandparents, were they more free 60 years ago than they are today?
Well,
and we all know the answer to that.
Then somebody will counter, yes, but black people and Hispanics and all this. Yes, every generation has to fight their evil. But the key thing to mention is that you can't look forward and you can't look backward. You have to look at today and now and weigh things correctly. Let's take some more calls.
Caller, go ahead. Hello, caller?
Let's go to the next caller. Hello, caller on the air.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
How are y'all today?
Pretty good.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. I was wondering, if they want to get the guns out of everybody's hands, I don't. They've got a bigger fight on their hands than they want, I think.
No, they just want to incrementally. I mean, this is incrementalism.
You couldn't talk Al Capone out of the guns in his hands, and you couldn't talk some guy in the hills of Tennessee out with the guns out of his hands.
Well, let me say something.
And the people
Let me say
something.
Let me say something. They don't care about your guns that much. They care about your checkbook. They care about regulating you. They care about stealing your land under the guise of environmentalism. They're trying to make guns socially unacceptable so people will lose the skill of using them, so they can create it harder and harder to buy them, restrict more and more types. Okay? That's what they're doing. They don't care if a few of their cannon fighters get shot confiscating guns. They like that. That'll create the panic. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I lost my train.
Well, look, somebody dug in. Can we stop that, please? Somebody dug in the hills of Tennessee. Oh, we got a problem. It's all right. Somebody dug in the hills of Tennessee isn't going to do a damn thing against the global slave state.
That's right.
Okay, it's the people in the cities that never get up in an airplane, don't know how much land there is, don't know how the world works, never leave their city. They're the big problem. We got to go to those people. We got to get a movement together. The problem is anytime we get a movement of any size, some smiley-faced idiot gets in charge of it who only cares about themselves, wants to squeeze money out of people, and there's no real capacity. But I'm in contact with military people and congressmen and former CIA people who may be coming into town very soon. I don't know, maybe the next week, and I'm going to do some stuff with them. A lot of people that are well-known in the community, former attorney generals, congressmen, senators, people that are standing up. Just because the media doesn't give them attention, that is the key.
Caller, did you have any other comments?
Caller's off. Let's go to another caller.
Alex?
Yeah.
And Steve, thank you very much for what you're doing. This is Mark.
Thanks. How's it going, Mark?
Okay. Once again, that piece from Ramsey Clark the other night, I just keep thinking about that over and over. That was really great.
It's powerful.
Former Attorney General?
Right. Excellent, excellent. Do we still have Texas Rangers here in Texas?
Yeah, I believe so.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I was watching the Learning Channel the other night, and it seems as though they were into thuggery also on a couple of occasions with some outlaws. They decided the best way to roost these outlaws was to kill some members of their family, some innocent members of their family. Had you heard anything about that?
No, but I think it's my very limited understanding that the Texas Rangers do have somewhat of a speckled past, at least early on, with situations just like that. But tell us your story. What did you?
Oh, no, I've always been interested in the Old West and the frontier West, the gunslingers after the Civil War, and John Wesley Hardin and the James brothers. You know, as bad as they might have been, of course, they were products of the guerrilla warfare in the Civil War. The Texas Rangers decided that the way to get even with them, they killed Jesse James' mother, I believe, and blew off. No, they killed his little brother and they blew off his mother's arm. They threw a bomb in their house, just their innocent family. And John Wesley Hardin, they did the same thing. They killed two of his cousins or something like that. Now, here's innocent members of a family, and here we have Texas Rangers. They're supposed to be law enforcement officials, and they're participating in gangsterism and thuggery, that they're supposedly against.
Well, you see that even today on a smaller scale, just right now. I mean, with the ASAP program, and there you have a clear-cut case of law enforcement officials breaking the law in a so-called effort to enforce the law. It's just it's an old pattern that's being repeated.
Yeah, well, let me tell you this. What are you people out there going to do? Delta Force is coming to town. The mayor's obviously been lied to. We got the police chief. We're fixing to play a clip of that. Stuff is getting hardcore. Stuff is getting serious. I know there's thousands of you watching right now. Are you going to come down tomorrow at 9 o'clock at the Stokes building, downtown, right next door to the old courthouse? I mean, are people going to get down there at 9 a.m. to stop Delta Force coming down here? Are you going to get down there? You're going to keep leaving it up to me and people like Steve Lane?
I'll tell you, you know, the sad part is if it was a bunch of puppies, I remember a few months ago when they were talking about putting an end to putting puppies to sleep and putting dogs to sleep, and there was 175 people that showed up to a demonstration like that, and yet when we're talking about the safety of human beings, when we're talking about stray bullets flying through neighborhoods, economically disadvantaged neighborhoods, we're not talking about
hey, where's the black
West
community?
Austin.
Where's the black community? I know full well that a lot of people I respect around here watch this show. I mean, I like Michael Lofton. I like all these guys. I like some of the reverends and people I've talked to. I know they've heard about this, and I know half of them are laughing at me. It doesn't matter if I play a 20-minute interview with a police chief talking about him being dishonest, bribery, danger, shooting up buildings, blowing up warehouses, scaring the hell out of people. Doesn't matter. I'm still a kook because the media didn't tell you.
That's
Only
right.
your big sweet pie media. And even when the sweetie pie media does tell you, you're so conditioned. First came the loud whirling of helicopter blades and the booming of explosions, followed by the crackle of small arms fire. This is San Antonio paper, man.
And that's the embarrassing part to me, though, is that we care more
And Mark,
in this
I appreciate
city.
your call, Mark.
We care
wasn't blowing
more
up at
in
you.
this city about trees and salamanders and puppies than we do about freedom and human beings. It really is embarrassing.
Well, there's a real sickness in our country, and in a way, I can't wait. You know what? In a sick way, maybe I should just get into the sickness. It's great. These UT professors that I've seen talk about euthanasia and how the old people need to make room for the young and how we shouldn't have all this money for elderly care. It should go to prenatal. Like the pie's one set sum, and somebody's got to lose and somebody's got to win.
And that's
It's not win-win. I can't wait till that scum. You know, I'm out there with my grandfather in the backyard trying to walk him around after he had a stroke and a heart attack. I care about the elderly people in my family. And I see this scum up there who's 65 years old talking trash about the old. I want them to die. Good. I bet because they're going to pay. But they're so stupid. These old people that are pushing for this weird socialism, they're so stupid that they feel like that they're part of it, they're doing something good. And when it happens to them, they won't even lose in the end because they'll be so dumb that they'll never even know. They're so brainwashed. They're so inhuman. They are just slobbering sheep. They're just, where is the black community? They're going to do Delta Force training in your community. You'll go to the mayor and he'll lie to you and say it's just anti-terrorism training until the black helicopters come. Why don't you call the police chief in San Antonio? Why don't you call the mayor, Howard Peak? Why don't you call the San Antonio Express News and ask them about the 5698 story? Why don't you do it? This is real. This is real. People are saying, why the hell am I getting pissed off? Because you people won't move out there. It's just a very small group of people are holding the line against this police state, against this fascism. A very small core group of people. The Mike Hansons, the Steve Lanes, the Alex Joneses, the Greg Ericksons. And everything we say is not true. But when I got Time Magazine, April 27th, and I'll keep going back to this, damn it. When I've got Time Magazine here, and it talks about a cashless society with a government card, and it says your daughter can store the money any way she wants, on her laptop, on a debit card, even in the not-too-distant future on a chip implanted under her skin. And perhaps best of all, you can program the money to be spent only in specific ways. You might instruct some of the digits to go for books, some for food, and some for movies. Unless you pass along a few digits that can be cashed in at the local pubs, you'll have to find someone else to buy the drinks. It's always the children. We're going to do urine and blood testing for the children to get driver's license. And then you read the actual Federal Register code, it's for 25% randomly selected when they implement. Right here. I mean, it's Federal Register, July 2nd, 1997, Volume 62, number 127. Clinton wants to urine and blood test people randomly. Then they'll say, what do I have to hide? Whatever happened to illegal search and seizure? Innocent until proven guilty. The Bill of Rights. It's all down the toilet. Bill Clinton is a foreign agent, obviously. His Swiss bank accounts must be huge. He's selling nuclear missile technology to the Chinese. I've been telling you this for 2 damn years. They're totally enslaving you. They're totally manipulating you. The economy's being financed on fiat got money. The European Union's going online next year. What are you going to do? Are you going to cower? Are you going to make excuses? Are you going to rationalize so you don't have to face up to what's happening? Law enforcement, you're the key. You stop being... I see these guys that are into football and all this tough stuff and into shooting their gun and all the rest of this stuff, and oh, I like America. Do they have no respect for themselves, Steve, that they won't stand up against the police state?
I tell you, one of the worst parts that I see is when you present people with this kind of information. It's a fact. I mean, this is straight from the federal government itself. This is their own paperwork, and the people that will just dismiss this, they'll read it and they'll understand it, and they know exactly what it means when you show them the part that talks about urine and blood testing, and they refuse. They don't want to see it, because the problem you get into, it's a psychological thing. If they see it, they know they must act upon it. It's in human nature when you see that kind of just brutal disregard for law and everything sacred in America, that you would be forced to do something. And I think the people that we're dealing with are inherently lazy. They're caught up in their own little lives. They're selfish. They're worried about paying their stupid taxes and whether or not they drive a nice car and providing a Nintendo for the kids, when they need to worry about real freedom in America.
It is saving face. They don't care. They say rape me, but just say you respect me when you do it. Bend me over. Steal old people's houses. Just don't tell us about it.
And the other thing you get into too is...
the IRS isn't going to be fixed. They just tell us that on the TV.
Yeah, and it never will.
There's a huge military offensive, according to the La Jornada of Mexico, reported on May 13th. There's a huge military offensive going down in Mexico. They're burning out the rebels and burning their cornfields, and they tell you here that it's just some burning, the stupid Indians.
But you also get into, too, the other problem you run into with
people like this.
Do
Do you realize we have a totally controlled media?
Easily.
Controlled media. It's not a liberal bias, it's a fascist bias.
No, exactly.
Oh, but they tell us we're poor liberals.
Right?
We're poor liberals.
And the other important point to make is, too, that if you believe that this is when you read it and you recognize that it's factual, then what you have to do is you have to admit that you've been duped all this time.
Oh, hey.
And you and I have been willing to admit. You've said it. I've heard you say it many times. I was a dupe. I was just like this. I was all into the Republican Party. I thought they were the greatest thing ever. Hey, I was enslaved by the propaganda like anybody else. I myself have only started to break free about 8 months ago, maybe 10 months ago, and I consider myself to still be breaking free. But it takes a huge leap of courage to be able to say, you know what, you did. You screwed me my whole life, but now I figured it out. And most people won't make that leap. They're not willing to say, hey, I was dumb for a while and you screwed me, but now I'm going to make it right. They don't have that kind of courage.
Speaking of controlled media, Steve, Greg Erickson's going to have a protest, and I'm going to try to be down there May 29th at KI. Is that a Friday?
Yeah, Friday, May 29th, 5 p.m.
And we'll go ahead and take one phone call, then we're going to go to a clip of the police chief talking about corruption.
Go ahead, caller. Caller, are you there? Well, while we're bringing that caller up, that protest is at 10,700 Metric Boulevard at the KI Studios.
Hello.
Yeah, what's going on, caller?
Yeah, something about y'all mentioned the Phase 1 earlier. After your report on Long Beach, I took your challenge. I got on the internet and found out, yes, it's a 25-year contract with the Chinese, and I found out about their nuclear missiles pointing at the U.S. But in my searching, I also did some searching on this Millennium Dome that they're building in England that nobody knows what it's about. And apparently they're going to try to usher in 185 countries signing what they call a new Magna Carta. And you should look at that as the Phase 2 of where they're going to take this to bring in this New World Order. This Millennium Dome thing, they're going to have a big statue in there that's bigger than the Statue of Liberty, and it's supposed to represent, I forget, but it has, they call it economic, religious, and monetary overtones, and that's probably where the new Phase 2 is going to be ushered in.
I wouldn't be shocked to hear it. Imagine what you could find. I mean, the internet is, for as fantastic as it is and the amount of information that's available, imagine if you had the time to go do the research across the country. I know Alex took a lot of time. Matter of fact, your video is just now out. It's called America Destroyed by Design. I saw, as a matter of fact, I'm going to take a few copies tonight because I know some people that want it. Alex demonstrated very well with just a little bit of research that he did, the time that he took, actually going across the country, and the facts that you find out when you actually go out and explore.
Hey, Steve, and I'm not putting on emotion here. I feel like tumping something over right now.
Well, I want to say one thing real quick. You had a quick caller earlier that said something. He downgraded Alex and got off the line and said he was afraid to debate or something. I mean, Alex, you're up there. You're leading this thing with a few other guys, and to me, that takes a lot of courage. And it's those guys that sit on the couch and won't do nothing and can just hang up the phone anytime they want that are the cowards in this deal. And I wish people would get the facts straight. And I'll get off now, and I'm going to see you all at the end of the month at the Texas Best Seminars, and I know you're about to wrap up. So I appreciate what y'all are doing.
Well, actually, we're going until 8:30. We're going to try to play a clip of the police chief, and again, tomorrow night I'll air the entire interview. I don't care if it gets old. I'm running until the cows come home.
I'll tell you, that is the greatest looking cover jacket of a video I ever saw, young man. Look at that good looking guy down there.
Kevin Booth helped me out on that.
It really is good. I like it. I like it. I heard Shannon Burke said some good things about it on Saturday night on your radio show.
Well, the video's not perfect. It's got a few problems, but my next one will be better. Kirk Hunter did a great job.
That's what it's all about.
Kirk Hunter did a good job on the
Doesn't matter. You actually did something.
It was showed here first.
And it was shown here first. That's right. Right here on Access Television. Which, by the way, hey, a little plug for Access Television. I got to tell you, Access Television is light years ahead of the mainstream media with the issues that are covered. You know, it's so funny.
Let me give them some examples. The corruption with the 1.7 million acres in Utah, that comes out later. The Ruby Ridge, Waco. Would you please? I'll tell you what, man, really, I'm really mad today, okay? I mean, I'm telling you, I'm getting sick of this. I'm not talking about the crew. I'm just getting sick of the people. We got executive orders turning over our parts to the UN as collateral. 12,986 is the executive order, and you don't care? And you think I'm weird for getting pissed? You go to your football games. Okay? You go to them, you yell, you scream, get out of my face, scum. You're not real men. You're sissies. To you cops out there that aren't standing up for America, for you ex-military people, you are filth. You are cowards. You are scum. Our country. I mean, how does an American act when the enemy's pouring over the hills, where they're taking over the whole country, where the country's being subdivided like a third world nation? Where are you, cowards?
You know, I see it all the time. We've been talking about it at work the past week. If World War II was fought again today, I'm sorry, but America would lose. There are too many people in this society now with absolutely no backbone. They won't take a stand one way or the other. They want to sit on the fence and wait for an outcome. And all I've got to say to people, I don't care if you join my team, but join a team. Don't just sit on the fence and wait and watch idly by.
They're not even living.
I know, that's my point.
Living.
Either identify yourself and be my enemy or be my friend, but stop sitting by and watching things happen. Stop being acted upon. Act upon others. I mean, we all have it within ourselves to take some sort of stand. And that doesn't mean, if you saw somebody getting the crap kicked out of them on the street, you don't have to jump in and break up the fight. Alex is the type of guy, yeah, he'd probably run over and physically try and break up the fight. But guess what? You can just as easily run to a telephone. You can drive in your car to go get an ambulance.
There have been stories lately, and the media just acts like it's funny, where people see somebody getting beat to death in the middle of the road, and of course it's always up north where they've really laid down. Poor people, I feel sorry for them. Corruption's been so bad that for so long they've just given up all hope. You see someone getting beat to death in the road, and you just drive on.
Yeah, but I hear this all the time. People say, well,
hey, next time you're getting beat to death in the road, other people are going to drive on.
Yeah, and the deal is that people, I hear people say it all the time, Steve, I can't do what you do. I can't get in front of a camera. I can't do it. Fine, you don't have to do that. I'm not saying you got to be right there physically breaking up the fight is the analogy I use. But you can be the guy that makes the phone call. You can be the guy that drives down the road and gets a hold of the police station. You don't have to be that person. You can take an active role in fighting this type of government aggression without physically touching and getting involved. There's so many things you can do, and I can't tell you what to do, and Alex Jones can't tell you what to do, and people all over can't tell you what to do. You know what to do. It's inside of you. You have to have the courage to follow your heart, what's inside of you. You know inside what role it is you have to play in this movement. You just have to be willing to take that stand and follow your heart. That's where the real courage is at.
They insist on doing that.
It doesn't even bother me anymore.
No, I don't mean that. I mean, let's go ahead and go to the police chief. I have no idea what we've queued up. We'll go ahead and go to that. We'll be back in about 10 minutes. And we'll take your phone calls. Hey, guys. The circus is down the road, so y'all need to run on down there to the circus where the bread and everything's going on. I was hearing commercials as I did my radio show this weekend. and it was going Mortal Kombat. It was like, yeah,
Okay.
it's just, I heard y'all. It was like the third time. It was just saying all this ridiculous stuff about Mortal Kombat and fight to the death and all this little mock stuff. I mean, we really are Rome.
About first time on television, that's right. Hey, let's get this call real quick so we can get that video queued up. Caller, go ahead.
Good show, gentlemen. Listen.
Oh, great, you cut him off.
You there?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
There's too many people in the control room. I know that's what's going on.
It's killing me, Alex. Listen, I was just wanting to point out, I don't know that everybody gets to look at the front page of the Wall Street Journal, but front and center, the headline reads, Killer Competition, or How Real Snipers Spend the Weekend. Styrofoam heads roll, stealth counts for a lot, shooting it up for a gunny halfcock. And it's a pretty extensive article about how cool snipers are, weekend snipers, civilian snipers, military, and they go out and shoot, styrofoam heads from 1,000 yards and take it home as a trophy.
Can you, is there any way you can fax or send us that article? As a matter of fact, I know Mike's got a slate for a P.O. box. Can you make a photocopy of that and send it to that P.O. box?
Let me make one more comment. And
Go ahead.
When you put me back on, tell them to put me on hold and give me your fax number.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. Anyway, I was also about you were commenting on the media and how that the media is totally totally controlled and people are dupes. Well, they will be until they have an alternative. People need to know what's going on because we're control freaks. We need to know what's going on, and we're going to go to the easiest place to get it, which is 530 major networks. And until you provide an alternative that people believe in, they're not going to have. I mean, they need something. They don't give a shit what it is.
Well, sir, the problem is you've got 6 corporations. You've got 5 news services controlled by those other 6 corporations. They all have interlocking stock, interlocking joint ventures. So really, and I don't want to get more into it. It'll sound ridiculous, but it's all proven. It's just. Look, there is a major military offensive going on in the south of Mexico right now. They're burning down the fields of the crops of the rebels. There's a major offensive going on right now in Chiapas, and nobody seems to give a damn. I mean, the media tells you that it's some stupid Indians set fire to something.
One quick point before we go to the video. One of the things I think we also see is that individuals. I'm sorry, was there a call there? Caller? Well, now I lost my train of thought. They let a call in and then they let it go back off. Do we have that video queued up now? Okay, let's go ahead and roll that video.
This is the police chief, Al A. Philippus. I don't know what clip we're running tomorrow night.
Apparently that I know that's very high in the community to make an approach to me and get me to change my mind. Well, then, when we said no, then some elected officials were contacted to bring pressure to bear. And then offers were made to give money, cash money, to elected officials' charities if they could get us to change our minds. I mean, as one of my deputy chiefs said, in some circles that's called bribery.
Well, it is called bribery, but more importantly, it's called manipulation of the constitutional system and the takeover of local police departments. And that $4.6 billion that we just saw in the Statesman that's so wonderful is buying them a lot of control if they can't buy the police chiefs off like they did Elizabeth Watson for that $244,000 a year job at the Justice Department. Let's hear him say that one more time.
To make an approach to me and get me to change my mind. Well, then, when we said no, then some elected officials were contacted to bring pressure to bear. And then offers were made to give money, cash money, to elected officials' charities if they could get us to change our minds. I mean, as one of my deputy chiefs said, in some circles that's called bribery.
Why do you think, and again this is just speculation, I've seen the large bookshelf of policing and criminology over there, and I know it's no small task to be a police chief of a modern city. Why do you think in Chicago, and if you're not aware of this, I'll get you a copy of it, that they're practicing taking over police stations and fire stations and bridges? That seems like a military takeover of a city.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't even want to speculate on that. I'm not familiar that those types of things are occurring.
Oh, yes.
Certainly, there was no approach made to us to do those kind of things.
Well, that's good. you talked about a memo from Delta Force?
Yeah, because what happened is various elected officials were being contacted. I have 10 city council members and a mayor, and I just wanted to alert them as to what was happening, that these situations were occurring, that they might be contacted by these individuals, and that in the best interest of public safety, and that's what I continue to fall back on, we didn't feel that it was in the best interest of the citizens of San Antonio to do that type of thing. All I can say is that, no just never seemed to be no. And even after they told us, we don't need you, we're still going to do our training exercise at other locations in and around the San Antonio area, but we're allowed to do them here. Next time, I'm still getting contacted by various officials. I mean, they never would take no for an answer.
So they weren't respecting your jurisdiction?
They were not respecting our jurisdiction. I don't think they respected our decision to go into predominantly minority areas of the city where we had vacant warehouses and buildings and try to do those types of exercises at those locations in the middle of the night.
Oh, I'm sorry, middle of the night?
In the middle of the night. Sometime between 9 p.m. and midnight. I mean, people become frightened. And we do a lot of our decision-making on experiences that have happened in a lot of other cities. We were very concerned with some things that have happened over there, and we didn't get any real good, clear answers.
So they were being secretive about it?
Very secretive.
And you kind of, the city and the mayor and yourself, as the police chief, you kind of felt that it was a little odd that they wouldn't trust y'all. I mean, y'all are the authorities here.
A little odd, and once I made contact with my peers in some of the other major cities, and they shared with me some of their experiences over there, the decision really was very easy. My interest as police chief is the citizens of the city.
Yes, sir.
Period. And I was not about to jeopardize the safety under an exercise of this magnitude under any circumstance.
Well, you can't say it any better than that. This isn't some wild conspiracy theorist. This is Al Philippus, head police chief in San Antonio, Texas. Oh, and the mayor, too, Howard Peak. He says that it's dangerous and that they're dishonest. And, of course, there's former Delta Force commanders like Stephen Barry there to tell you that it's to round up the general population. It's a practice run. Oh, and by the way, according to the May 10th, 1998, Sunday edition of the Austin American Statesman, Metro and State, they're conferring with people here in Austin, and sometime after June of this summer, they plan to have this training here in Austin, Texas. I guess our safety isn't important. Despite the track record in North Carolina, $100,000 damage, and in Miami, a stray bullet from the Delta Force going into a crowded restaurant. What is wrong with Kirk Watson? I hope he shows the same will that Mayor Howard Peak did. But I think Watson's just concerned with making all the big, fat, juicy kickbacks. Fix it, Watson. That's your job. Protect us. Quit sucking off us. And some of you are probably saying, oh, Alex, why are you being so angry about this? Because the statesmen, they know this has happened down in San Antonio. They know this is going on. They're not that ignorant. 4 days after all this comes down, they're writing stories about how wonderful it is and how they're coming to town, these secret teams. I mean, this is dangerous. Helicopters could crash. Anything could happen with these low-flying night missions. And Kirk Watson and these people, they know this is going on. They should throw the Delta Force and all the rest of them out of our city. And I'll get to that later. These are the guys that have a history of spraying our cities with biological weapons. Yes, I'll get to that later, but back to the chief. I'm just documenting every bit of this because I'm tired of it. The propaganda's out of control.
And once I made contact with my peers in some of the other major cities, and they shared with me some of their experiences over there, the decision really was very easy. My interest as police chief is the citizens of the city.
Yes, sir.
Period. And I was not about to jeopardize the safety under an exercise of this magnitude under any circumstance.
What types of training were they wanting to engage in? I mean, again, I heard some reports that they wanted to do live fire with blanks and perhaps actually some incendiary flashbangs and things.
Yeah, I don't know the particulars of that. I know that they wanted to use some explosives for entry into some of these buildings, some of the so-called ceramic bullets, which would be fired into little traps which we're supposed to catch those which would disintegrate supposedly on contact. But I know that in one city, American city, that one of those bullets got astray and going through a window and down almost into a restaurant. So things can go wrong.
What city was that?
I believe that it was in Miami.
That's incredible. So basically right now, as it stands, and until they actually confer with y'all better or change their plans, they're not really welcome to train here in San Antonio?
We are not going to support any of their operations. They may do some things at the various military bases here in San Antonio. That certainly is their jurisdiction, but we will not support any operations in the city limits.
I want you to know something. The decision you've made, if things continue to move with the European Union, and Chrysler just got bought, they're probably going to buy up most of the Fortune 500. They're coming online with a new currency. There are a lot of people in Clinton's cabinet, and they're in control, that are pushing this, and I just want to commend you for what you've done, but in the future, we really, and there's a small chance of this, but we really count on law enforcement officials locally like y'all to protect the people and uphold the law. And again, I just want to commend you for recognizing some of the behavior of the Delta Force and expelling them.
Well, I appreciate that. Again, the decision really was not that difficult. We have the interest of the citizens of San Antonio. This is a military city. We have a tremendous amount of respect for the military and what they do. But I do not have any respect for the tactics that were used by the advance team coming in here.
You're saying that they were disrespectful?
They were courteous and friendly to us, to our faces, but again, when you make a decision, you try to get information, to go around and try to put influence on you from pressure groups and individuals, either elected or in the community. That's sad.
You're not hitting to borderline Gestapo-esque tactics in politics.
No, I think it was always done very courteously, very professionally, but it still left a bad taste in my mouth.
Austin,
speaking of controlled media, I really want to commend you, Alex. That was, I think that's fantastic that you managed to get a scoop like that. That again, once again, the amateurs at Access Television. I know you've done this 3 years, but compared to the big boys, I mean, we're all amateurs down here. Once again, the amateurs at Access Television has totally shown up the so-called professional mainstream media. Once again, this is light years ahead of anything that they have touched upon. I hadn't even heard of blips on the television mainstream media. We saw blips in some of the newspapers,
well, listen,
but you're light years ahead on this deal.
We have to ignore the media. We have to get in there tomorrow at the Commissioner's Court meeting. Now, listen, you know it's real, and I made the call for people to call talk radio shows. I've gotten 30 reports that you've been doing that. Excellent job. And I know I yell at callers and cut people off and stuff because we're in a crisis situation. Sure, it's going to happen in the next 5 years. That seems like a long time to most people, but in the span of human history, it's a second. We are headed into 100% police state, and the key is local law enforcement standing up. Now, tomorrow night, I'm going to play that entire interview, then Ramsey Clark, and then former Delta Force Commander Stephen Barry, and the newspaper articles, close-ups, on exposing corruption. And I want to thank Mike. I want to thank Steve. I want to thank everybody here that's helping out. Listen, I know I can sit up here as a talking head and be more serious and speak to you and talk like this with a teleprompter and read off of it all night long. I'm not going to do that. I know I get riled up, but you need to get riled up. So come down tomorrow, Citizens Communication, and speak. We need to stop Delta Force from coming here. They do not need to come here. Now, the commissioners will lie to you. They'll say they're not coming. Just like they said the helicopters weren't going to be used for surveillance. I heard on KLBJ just yesterday that they are being used for surveillance, but they're called Starflight. Isn't that sweet? And they're building a $2,031,000 base, Sheriff's Command Center. I went forward to the commissioners, and they laughed at me. Then you went to Margaret Frazier, the police chief, and the sheriff, and she admitted it. So the police state is coming on full bore. They're getting federal money. They're gearing up. They're training. And Austin says that they're coming to train here, but they don't call it Delta Force. Now, the mayor and the police chief say they're dishonest. So maybe our mayor's just ignorant. Kirk Watson, we do not want Delta Force here. I know they may have already given you a lot of money. That's what the police chief said. He said they were paying off politicians. I don't know that, but you need to give them back the money if you did take it, Watson. I'm just speculating here from what happened in San Antonio. You need to give the money back or whatever's happened. I know it's going to be hard, but God forbid, every city they've trained in, there's been injuries, there's been property damage. What if a helicopter crashes, which has happened in other places, or there's an explosion? I know the mainstream media will cover it up for you. They'll call it a training accident or something. You'll still get some heat because we're going to be here. We're going to be here exposing you. You can shut down access. We're on talk radio. We got organizations. We're making videos. You're not going to stop us. So just be aware, Watson and the rest of you. Maybe you're ignorant. Then it's okay. I will commend you. I will commend you, and we will commend you if you keep Delta Force out of here.
And once again, your tomorrow night's lineup proves my original point about how Access, the so-called amateurs, are light years ahead. I mean, look at that. You got Police Chief Philippus. You've got Ramsey Clark, a former United States Attorney General. I mean, those types of interviews are interviews that mainstream media, they dream of. And here, it's just going here week after week. Like clockwork, the shows down here at Access are producing good quality interviews like that. So do you want to sit at home and watch Tom Brokaw talking about the fleecing of America, or do you want to see the real fleecing of America?
Yeah, see, that's why they come out with the corruption, is to make you, in fact, I saw a CBS,
I know why they do it. They're embarrassed. They're embarrassed that a bunch of amateurs are down here doing their damn job. This is what the free press was really all about, is what we're doing down here today.
I saw a CBS deal, and it said accurate, detailed, and complete. Dan Rather, CBS Evening News. I mean, give me a break. If you want accurate CFR media, then be sure and tune into a teleprompter. Someone reading off a teleprompter. I mean, they could have a computer up there doing it. It'd be just, these are just people reading off of a sheet.
And there's the ad again for the controlled media protest.
But they do it so convincingly, how they stare straight at you and tell you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, well, a $3,000 suit, you got to feel pretty good about yourself. This is sponsored by Free Press International. You can see there, 10,700 Metric Boulevard. That's at the KI Studios at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. And one other quick plug, the Austin Alternative News and Music Hour, which is a taped show on 95.9 Radio Tejas.
If you're in far north of Austin, you can hear it
Leander.
for about 400 square miles.
Yeah, and you can get it out to, I've been out as far west, past Lago Vista even, and caught it out there. It's really amazing what the height of his tower is able to accomplish.
Now,
but that's at 6 p.m. on Mondays.
By the way, Keith Perry has good programming on there almost all the time, and Keith Perry has been threatened with $11,000 fines and being put in prison. He's staying open. He is not interfering with any other
signals.
With any other signals. Let's take some calls here in the last 10 minutes. Hello, caller, you're on the air.
Hello?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
You're going to have to speak up. Either that or somebody needs to come in here and turn up our volume. I can barely hear you.
Okay. A little twist on the fact that people sit on their couches and watch this.
Gosh, she got to speak it up.
Say.
News. Like, I think I saw a clip on KI of interviewing runners down by Town Lake and how bad the air quality was and how was it affecting their running. And I wonder how those people would react if they knew they were breathing in the cremated remains of men, women, and children from Mexico, you know?
Well, that's the key.
Everybody's so blasé about this. Oh, isn't this terrible? We can't breathe, and we have foggy skies, and isn't this awful? But my God, they're killing people and burning them.
I think it's an important point to make that definitely all the compasses are pointing in that direction, so to speak.
Well,
we don't
I
actually
actually left it in the car because you've seen the stacks of stuff I have. The Statesman came out the 13th and had an article, and it shows where the fires are. It's all in the areas where there's rebels. And then again, the La Jornada, I had this translated from the actual Spanish, reported on May 13th that the fires are all in conflict zones. Now, we don't know exactly what's happening now, but we know that there's not reporters down there on the scene, caller. But what we do know is that Patricia Moore, who has shows all over the country, Patricia Moore has played clips of dead bodies, the police in black uniforms, the tanks, all the rest of this. So there has been a conflict going on for the last 2 to 3 years down there, and this looks like a major offensive. By the way, this is not the time of the year when they're burning off stuff to grow. This is the time of year when their crops are almost fully grown. So they're burning out their crops, they're burning out their homes, There's a major offensive, it looks like, going on down there, and that's how controlled your media is they don't even tell you. And then Janet Reno comes out today and says, oh, Mexican banks are laundering drug money. Well, U.S. banks have been caught. The Federal Reserve Bank of San Antonio was caught with $3 billion of drug money a year and a half ago. So it's pure hypocrisy. The drug war is not about controlling drugs. It's about asset forfeiture, seizure. It's about controlling competition for the banks and the CIA who are shipping in the drugs.
It's about allowing you access to only what the government considers to be good drugs, the good mind-altering drugs, the ones that quiet you down, the Ritalin, these types of drugs that keep you from being a leader.
The chemical drugs. Ma'am, do you have any more comments?
Well, yeah, a whole different subject. I bought a book at one of the Texas Best meetings one day about, it was that Kathy O'Brien and Mark Phillips, Transformation of America. And I'm not real good about reading because I'm busy all the time, but I finally decided to read it, and I'm having trouble sleeping. If people knew how evil our leaders in government really are.
They're ruthless scum, impotent.
It is unbelievable to me. I mean, I'm 46 years old, and I cannot even fathom that people think like our wonderful leaders, all the way back to, Reagan and Jerry Ford and, just, it's so unbelievable to me that that's what's been running our country. And God must be so appalled that that's what this country has turned into.
What protest is that? Because I'm not familiar with
the City Council protest, Thursday, May 21st, 1998 at 1 p.m. Again, I believe that's something that's sponsored by Free Press International.
I'll have to be there. Listen, caller.
Anyway, let me just say, I wish that...
well, ma'am, you can read books, and I'm not attacking you. You can read books all day, but you need to get down there to the Commissioner's Court meeting tomorrow at 9.
Or if you can't go, write a letter, make a phone call. I know he's been popping up that slate all night with the phone numbers on there. That's what I was talking about. You don't have to physically go get touched. I would prefer you physically go down there and get involved. But
they're doing it in Mexico now, but that's what our leaders have planned for our country if we don't fall in line and
sure.
act like the little slaves they want us to be.
Sure.
Well, they know best, caller.
Well, yeah, they love us.
Well, we appreciate your call.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
But look, I'm telling you, I'm going to do this for about another year, and then I'm going to quit. If I'm seeing some movement, and I'm going to keep pushing. But I tell you, if the people want it, they can have it. I'm going to maybe go join the other side and try to take care of my family. I mean, if this is what the scum wants, I'm going to feed on you. Okay, I want you to understand that. Maybe the establishment won't take me, but of course I'm being sarcastic here. But if I see this continue, I'm going to go beg to join the other team. And because maybe they are right. Maybe we are just these horrible creatures that must be controlled, that must be stomped on. We must take old people's houses. We must euthanize old people. We must do this because this is what this scum deserves. Maybe you are the scum they think you are, and maybe they're just smart enough that they know they might as well rule over you. Maybe the professors are right and just do what's popular and bang the hot interns. Let's take another call. What's going on?
Go ahead. Caller, are you there?
Let's go to the next caller. Hello, caller on the air.
Yeah, hello, Alex. I was wondering if that was like a southern front. If they burned all those crops out, our food prices here are going to go skyrocketing. Not only that, we're going to have so much illegal immigration coming in this country that it'll almost destabilize our economy.
Well, I got to tell you something about immigration. This is the way I feel about immigration. If people want to come to this country and they want to participate in society and they want to work and be a productive part of society and not just come in an effort to take that handout from the government to feed that slave state, then I'm all for it. I don't care where they're from, okay? But the problem we're getting into is I think the federal government, the way that it operates, that sort of immigration just feeds the slave state. It feeds the slave state mentality. It's that idea that government owes you something, that they have to give you something. You deserve something just by virtue of being here, and that's wrong. This country's always been about rugged individualism, about a person taking what's best, the talents they have best about them, using them to the best of their ability and making a better life for themselves and their children and their families. It's not about this growing slave state.
Well, how's that going to affect our food prices? They burn all that off.
Well, basically, they're killing a lot of rebels down there. It'll increase the food prices.
And how can we get news on that?
You'll have to go down there. I mean, that's you haven't seen anybody on the ground because there'd be tanks going behind them.
Well, what was strange is May the 8th, they threw all the human rights organizations out then May the 9th, all the fire started.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Alex. Goodbye.
Hey, what are you going to do tomorrow?
What?
Are you going to Commissioner's Court? Are you going to send a letter? Are you going to make a phone call?
Yeah, I always do. This is
Good.
Pat. Yeah, I will.
Good. Good.
Pat,
I appreciate
God bless
it.
you, buddy. Pat's a good veteran of our country. Look, I want to thank everybody for the show, and thanks for co-hosting, Steve.
I'm glad to
Thanks,
be here.
Mike. We might want to hang up on that line if we don't want to continue to get the problem. But look, I have no respect for you, America. You're a bunch of filth. You are. I mean, especially you people that have positions of some power, and you want to say I'm extreme. You want to make jokes about what's happening in our country. I mean, I was called a kook 2 years ago talking about Clinton and missile technology to the Chinese, and now it comes out. I don't know what people want. I don't know what they need. I don't know why they feel so disenfranchised that they can't do anything. I know there's a lot of good people out there, and I shouldn't say that. They make me feel weird in that a lot of them don't care, but a lot of you do care. So I don't know, I have mixed feelings on this. Just basically, if you do care, get off your butt and be down there at Commissioner's Court meeting tomorrow at 9 at the Stokes Building. Get involved, and tomorrow night, 8:30, Channel 10, Exposing Corruption. Around 9 o'clock, I'm going to run the whole interview with the police chief, Ramsey Clark, former Delta Force Commander Stephen Barry. You want to see the police chief and all the rest of that, talking about the dishonesty and the attempted bribery and all the rest, and then the Statesman article, how the Delta Force is coming here, then you need to tune in tomorrow at 8 o'clock, and you need to tape it and get it to other police chiefs in other parts of the country. You need to take some action, because actually I'm having a bad attitude. I shouldn't be like that. Things are slow. Things take a long time. So you've got to get involved.
There are global corporations surveying billions that they pay to the greedy politicians who let things go their way. That's a bunch of property we live from day to day.
Well, hello, folks. This is Mike Hanson, your old Facebook buddy and your YouTube buddy. We got a new Facebook page, Hanson Archives, Hanson Archives. And our older one that has a lot of, be sure to subscribe down there is what we need. We got about 20,000 on Mike Hanson Archives, but we started a new one, Hanson Archives, for all the good old classics, Alex Jones, Jeff Davis, Steve Lane, George Humphrey, Chris Ritter, Jimmy Ritter, all the good old people that you used to see on ACTV. The tapes are 20 to 25 years old, and I'm trying to preserve them. We have hired somebody to and bought all the equipment to transfer them over, get them edited down to some kind of sense, because they were live shows and raw footage of different things that we've been involved in. So be sure to subscribe down there to Hanson Archives. We got a new one coming up, Waco Archives. It's going to be all the Waco stuff that we've done. So if you would like to help out, I'm offering a special. Send $25 to 901 St. Joseph. She's going to put the address up here. Gonzales, Texas, 78629, and we'll send you a signed copy of my book, Bohemian Grove, Cult of Conspiracy. If you'd like to use a credit card, be sure to call us at 830-672-3089. Just leave a message or talk to a live person there when they're open, and we'll get you one sent out ASAP. Alrighty, thanks a lot and God bless, and be sure to hit that subscribe button. Thank you. God bless.
Hello, Austin. Welcome to the Freedom Report. My name is Steve Lane. I'm joined tonight by Rusty Fields.
Hello, Steve.
Glad to have you here, Rusty.
Good to be here.
Normally, you'd see myself and Alex Jones here. Alex, fortunately for him and unfortunately for us, is now doing a nightly radio show on KJFK, who is also a sponsor of the Freedom Report. We are very proud that KJFK has the will to sponsor programs like this and to put people like Alex Jones on the air and to put out the kind of information that we do.
Steve, that's 98.9?
It's KJFK, and
FM.
Exactly, and he's going to be on every night now besides his 4 hours on Saturday. So we're very proud of Alex, very happy that he gets this. It makes it tough on us because now we have the two true rookies on the Freedom Report, but we're going to, hopefully you'll suffer through this with us, our first show together
Alex, if
tonight.
you're listening, we're going to do the best we possibly can. This will
That's
be a
right.
great show.
Rusty's, I'm sure he's going to catch on real quick. Tonight, we've got a lot of information to get to, so we're going to get right at it. We're going to lead off talking about a news report that NBC News 36 did on the Independence Day celebration that myself and Rusty and many others participated in, all told about 100 people. Saturday, it's July 4th, of course, down at the steps of the Capitol. The celebration started at about 12 o'clock noon, at least for us. Unfortunately, though, about 3 hours prior to that, there was a gentleman who we've had reports is a mental patient, actually. Those are unconfirmed reports at this point, but he was actually a mental patient, had decided to come down a little bit early, I think very suspiciously. It just so happens that News 36 happened to be down there to record him burning a United States flag. Now, a lot of people get really upset over this thing. I think we should get upset, but let's remember one thing. Somebody brought up the very valid point on an email to me that burning a flag is the appropriate way to retire an old flag. I think if you truly want to desecrate a flag, you should do what we did to the UN flag, that is Alex Jones and others, and hacked it to bits.
We can't mention everything we did to the UN flag on the air.
Yeah, right. That's the way to truly desecrate a flag. Burning is an appropriate way to retire an old flag. But anyways, the point being is that the way they did this a little so-called news piece is they showed this apparent mental patient burning a United States flag some 3 hours before we had our Independence Day celebration, but they coupled the video right together with Alex Jones and others cutting apart a United Nations flag, leaving you with the visual impression that these groups were somehow together, that somehow he was associated with those of us who were celebrating what freedom we have left on July 4th holiday. We're going to actually show all the various newscasts, the reports of the Independence Day celebration here later on. It's important to note here that the reporter who covered the Independence Day celebration, his name is Rich Parsons, and we tried to get a little interview with Rich Parsons, and I think Mike's got that queued up ready to go, and you can see what the reporters in our mainstream media are like. Mike, do you have that ready? Let's go ahead and roll that. Oh, you don't have it yet. Well, that's all right. Rich Parsons, we tried to interview Rich Parsons, and of course, he said that, and you'll see the tape here, that he doesn't answer questions, he only asks them. Unfortunately for most of us, he doesn't ask any of the real questions.
Rich, no fair, buddy. No fair.
Also, too, many people, including Alex Jones, tried to call and complain to the producer of News 36. His name is Richard Collison. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. By the way, we're going to make Richard famous thanks to the way he responded, or his lack of response to the complaints. We're going to make Richard famous. We're going to do that a couple of ways. Number one, if you'd like to complain about this report that you're going to see here shortly, later on in the newscast, call that number 476-2863. Ask for Bruce Whitaker, the news director, and complain that you don't like the suspiciousness. This is, of course, if you feel this way. I'm not telling you what to do, of course, but if you feel like that this was a poorly put together news story, call and tell them that. If you're unhappy that they don't talk about the real issues like the Federal Reserve and how it's a total fiat money system, if they don't talk about real issues like your rights that are supposed to be protected by the Constitution, not constitutional rights, as so people are so fond of saying, then complain. Those are the people to complain to. If they get enough complaints, tell them that you're not going to buy products from their advertisers, those sorts of things. You can and will make a difference. Now, I'm hearing that Mike might have that tape ready. This is an interview I tried to get with, again, Rich Parsons of News 36. Let's go ahead with that tape. Flag burning that is. Here in a moment I'm going to try and get an interview with one of the local news reporters from NBC News 36 and ask him a few questions about the type of reporting they do. Hi, I'm Steve Lane. Do you have a few moments so you can maybe answer a few simple questions? all. You can't answer any at all? None? I just wanted to ask you just the types of reporting you do.
Put the microphone up there.
Mainly about questions like why we haven't seen much reporting on the fact that you have to thumb scan to get your driver's license, that 25% of the public is going to have to give blood and urine samples to be able to get their driver's license. That's documented in an executive order, and I'm just a little bit surprised by the lack of reporting in the mainstream media on subjects like this. There's been documented evidence as far as FBI snipers firing on people running out of the back of the church there at Waco. That was documented from a FLIR tape, which stands for Forward-Looking Infrared Radar, by the gentleman who invented FLIR technology. He reviewed that tape and said that those were FBI snipers firing at many of the people that were trying to escape from the burning church there at Waco, and we have seen no mainstream news reports on that. That was in a documentary that was put out that actually got nominated for an Academy Award. Have you ever spoken in the newsroom about things like that, or talked about reporting anything like that?
Sorry, I can't answer any questions.
If you heard about stuff like that, do you think you might be interested in possibly looking into doing stories on things like that?
I'd suggest you call my news director.
Okay, what's his name so I can talk to him? That would be excellent. This is information that I think is important that needs to get out in order to maintain well-balanced stories.
We're not in a republic. We're in a dictatorship. And the War Emergency Powers Act of 1933. Over and out. Being live on a daily basis. I could go through 100 examples for you, and I think I'll do that today. When the hell are we going to show some courage to these bureaucrats and these criminals that enforce what they push? That's right now. The BATF. Yeah, let's talk about the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. A bunch of criminals. Absolutely out of control. A pack of liars. A bunch of enforcers of slavery. Let's talk about the FBI. Anybody who stands up for what's right in the FBI is thrown out of the FBI. Frederick Whitehurst, many others. We've got good people like Ted Gunderson, who left the FBI on good terms, senior agent of California. He'll tell you flat out that they're lying to you, that they're manipulating you. You cannot trust what you're hearing and what you're seeing. This country is being deindustrialized as we speak, America, and it's serious, and it's something that people got to face up to. People have to face up to the hard problems. People have to face up to what it's going to take to get this country back on track. And that's going to take people getting involved. That's why I want to thank everybody that came out here for this 4th of July rally. They know what the 4th of July is about. It's about defiance of tyranny. It's about not laying down on your belly like a bunch of jellyfish. That's what freedom's about. Freedom comes with a price tag, with blood, sweat, and tears. It comes with eternal...
Well, there you have it. That was Rich Parsons of News 36. I believe that's their call letters are KXAN. And Rusty, will you tell everyone what you said to me? How was he looking at me again?
He was looking at you like you were from Mars or something. What do you mean the real news? We don't have to do that, do we? That might require some work or some research or some checking into things, some real reporting.
It's just amazing to me. People, basically the news is all about ratings and sensationalism, and I can't think of anything more sensational than the American government firing on its own people and murdering its own people. I mean, we have the inventor of FLIR technology reviewed that tape, said without a doubt, he holds patents on this technology, that there are men firing automatic weapons at people running out of that burning church at Waco. I mean, if that is the most sensational story I can possibly think of.
Well, it was entirely too sensational for 60 Minutes, because when they sent the story over to 60 Minutes, man, they got it back like a hot potato, saying, due to the sensitive nature, we don't want anything to do with this story.
It was widely reported that there you'll see some of that FLIR footage, and then a three-dimensional computer model of what we're talking about here. But it was widely reported that 60 Minutes was concerned about their contacts at the Department of Defense and other national government agencies, that those contacts, that they would actually be cut off, that they wouldn't get the exclusive interviews anymore if they played this tape on 60 Minutes, on such a widely broadcast show such as 60 Minutes. There we're also seeing some of the hearings, the congressional hearings on Waco. I think it's important to note, too, that we're going to hear later on in the show the producer of KXAN News 36, Richard Collison, I believe is his name, who We're going to do our very best to make these two people famous, this reporter and this producer.
Rich and rich.
I'm going to get them, get their pictures on the website so that now when they go to Subway downtown or some other store, people are going, hey, I've seen you on Access Television. You're that guy that butchered the news report on the Independence Day celebration that those nice freedom-loving Americans put on.
Actually,
down at the Capitol building.
I think biased would be a better word.
I think it's highly suspicious. Obviously, I have no physical evidence to support this, but I think it's highly unusual and highly suspicious that this gentleman who burnt the U.S. flag, when he was down there a full 3 hours before the scheduled start of our celebration, and it just so happens that a news crew is down there. Now, I've heard of, and I'm not prepared to have enough evidence to lay down to set forth this kind of accusation towards KXAN, but I've heard of news agencies, and we've seen it on NBC at the highest level, where they planted ignition devices in the fuel tanks of pickup trucks, causing the trucks to explode to sensationalize their story. It would not shock me if it turned out KXAN paid this gentleman or rounded this gentleman up and encouraged him to burn this U.S. flag in an effort to put on this kind of so-called news story.
Well, Steve, I mean, whether he was someone's lackey, or whether he was hired by someone or not, the way that they presented the story, I mean, it presents a falsehood. It shows a falsehood. This guy was there hours before any of us ever got there. He did his thing, and then they very conveniently tagged that in with us, trying to make us look un-American. When that's just about as polar opposite as you can get from our point of view.
Exactly right. In fact, if I weren't so libertarian in nature, I would tend to say that I would go along with Louisiana's way of dealing with American flag burning, and what they have is, in Louisiana, it's not against the law to burn a United States flag. However, if you beat up somebody who burns the United States flag, it's only like a $5 fine. Right. So, oddly enough, they don't have much flag burning going on in Louisiana.
Politics has always been interesting in Louisiana.
Yes, very much so. Now, I've just been informed that up next we're going to show you some Capitol Police that ultimately they answer to DPS. They are part of DPS. They were surveilling the Independence Day celebration. Apparently, it's just so evil now to wave American flags, the United States flags, and talk about the Constitution.
Going to push their agenda, and they're not going to stop their agenda. And that's what I'm talking about. That's what we're here dealing with.
Tell everybody to turn and wave to the car over there. They're taking pictures.
Yeah, we hear we're getting some pictures taken on us. Let's go see. And they run off. Hey, take your pictures. We're not ashamed. We're Americans. Come on, take your pictures. People drive off when I come over there. All I'm out here doing is standing up for the damn Constitution of this country. You think there's something wrong with that? You go ahead and run off surveillance car. You guys ought to be ashamed of yourselves.
By the way, there was approximately, I counted it at one point, about 37 Capitol Police at the Capitol building. And I went later on and talked to one of the Capitol Police, and I asked him if there were state troopers from all over there. And he said, oh, no, it's just the Capitol Police. And I said, what do you mean? He said, oh, we're always here. So apparently there's always about 37 Capitol Police.
At all times.
At all times, driving around everywhere, pacing nervously, driving. There were actually 2 Capitol Police cars that I saw surveilling us, and maybe others, but I don't want to get into that, because they do like to divert your attention away from their actual surveillance cameras, and I'm quite aware of that, as many others, and we make it a habit of not showing actually the real surveillance cameras. I tend to think that that was just a bit of a decoy. Also, two other quick things. We saw Alex there later on in the show. If we have some time, we're going to try and call Alex at KJFK live on the air and congratulate him, because again, I just think it's fantastic. This is, as far as I'm concerned, it's a giant leap forward for the freedom movement here in Austin to get a show like his on nightly on a mainstream station such as KJFK. Also, too, we're going to get to your calls. Callers who are on the line, please hold. Please be patient. We got a lot of information to get to. We will get to your calls. This is something that I'm going to actually talk to Mike about, where hopefully we can segment a portion of the show where it's just all calls for, say, half an hour or something like that. But that's something we'll have to get worked out.
We want to get as many calls as we can. Can I go ahead and mention next week?
Certainly.
I want to go ahead and mention now, next week we have a gentleman by the name of Greg Cole coming on the show. I've known Greg for many, many, many years, about 26 years. We were just children when we met. I've known Greg for many, many years. He's a great guy. He's very intelligent. He is about the most expert that I know on computers. Greg is the kind of guy, he just moved back here from Ireland. He decides wherever he wants to go and whatever he wants to do, and then he lets the computer companies in that region know that he's there, and they all vie for him. So he must know what he's doing. He's going to go over some of the Y2K. We're just going to do a real simple why it's happening, how it happened, and kind of take you through it like that, just step by step. So I know everybody's heard about the Y2K problem, the year 2000 computer shutdown problem. We're going to try to lay it out very simply and explain it to you, and then take calls on your questions. Now that's next week on the Freedom Report at 7 o'clock.
I believe you that you were a kid 26 years ago.
I'm still a kid. I'm a big kid.
And this is important to you real quick.
Then.
This month's Downsized Government Conference is going to be centered around year 2000 computer problems. We're going to have, among other people, I'm embarrassed that I've forgotten his name, but anyways, he owns Cafe Zam Computers. I asked him in a chat room one night if he'd come and be a speaker, and I'm also going to try and get another gentleman who puts out a newsletter. He calls himself the Y2K Weatherman, and he says that this is the way we need to think of year 2000 computer problems, is the way you'd look at a weather forecast. If you think there might be rain, you take an umbrella with you. You may not need the umbrella, but it's a good idea to have it to keep from getting wet, and that's the way he looks at it. It is a serious issue. It's not something that should be taken lightly. I don't believe it's something that's going to cause mass hysteria, but the potential is there, and I think we need to be prepared for it. So the Downsized Government Conference is, of course, the last Sunday of every month at the Chariot Inn at 7300 North IH35. And if you want more details on that, you can either call the comment line or you can call 703-6767, or you can email me at slane@moment.net, or check out our website at downsize.ml.org. Now, quickly, we're going to get to the footage of Mr. Jones and others flashing to bits a United Nations flag, which I think is an important step for all of us to take to renounce the UN. We need to get the United States out of the UN as quickly as we can and get unburden ourselves with that feeling.
All right, there's a home. When you go home this afternoon, take it to your neighborhood.
Burn ban.
We're going to go out there after this song. Okay,
After this song, we're going to shred this UN flag since there's a burn ban. Want to get a little bit of desecrated flag.
Okay.
That's an accursed symbol. We need somebody to come hold this flag while we shred it.
I'll help you.
All right. Let's all hold it.
Hold it. We say to tyranny in the United Nations.
Get it, Alex.
Death to the New World Order. Death the idea of losing our sovereignty. We don't like this flag, and we're sick and tired of it. We stand for this country, and we will defend it. The United Nations is a tyrannical, authoritarian propaganda arm and military arm of international control. And to it, we refuse to submit. That's all that's going to be left of the UN if they keep pushing their lies. The loss of U.S. sovereignty has gone too far. We're fixing to get another one.
Yeah, let me do it.
Where's Jeff Davis at?
Again, you might go this far. It's the New World Order that we're talking about. You see that? Right here.
Death of the New World Order. Right there, baby. Yes! Yes! Tyranny's going down, baby. We know what the UN stands for. We're not going to stand for global tyranny. Yes! What a pleasure to burn that accursed symbol. What an absolute pleasure to shred that rag. That filthy rag, that United
I think
Nations.
it's important to note from that footage, of course it's fantastic footage. I love seeing the UN flag just torn to shreds. It doesn't deserve to be burned. Again, I said earlier, burning a flag is a fitting into a flag that you revere, that you retire. That's the appropriate thing to do in the course of an American flag. If it becomes tattered, it's appropriate to burn it. That is the way you retire an old flag. So I think it actually turned out better that we didn't burn the UN flag, that we hacked it to bits. You'll notice, too, that we participated in something that was very lawful. This gentleman that went down and burned a U.S. flag, he broke the law that day. And even though we stand up we stand up for U.S. sovereignty, I think it's important to note that that entire time we obeyed the law.
Absolutely. I mean, there was a burn ban on. It had been raining all morning, but officially there was still a burn ban on. So we obeyed the law. We didn't burn the flag. We tried to desecrate it. I don't think there's any way you could desecrate the UN flag enough to make me happy.
Desecration also invokes a religious nature to something when you look at the definition. So I think, again, I don't think desecration is an appropriate term to use with regards to the UN flag.
They think it's a religion. I certainly don't.
Well,
environmentalism,
we've seen how the UN uses environmentalism as a new world religion, and that's really what they do. They're doing it all over the planet right now. It's an age-old idea. It used to be you used actual religion to control masses of people. Now, environmentalism is a new world religion. We tell people that if you don't do certain things, if you don't give up your land, you don't give up your property rights, you don't give up your personal rights, that the sun won't come back and the rivers will run red with blood and the sky will fall and everything will just come crumbling down. And this is a tool that's used by the real elite. We're not talking about city council members and county commissioners. Those aren't elite. Those are just wannabes. We're talking about the elite, people you will never hear of. You'll never hear their names. You'll never see their faces. Those people will use things like the United Nations and environmentalism to manipulate the masses into command and control structures. We see it all the time, and it's happening all around us.
Absolutely, and they back the biggest environmental groups. I mean, some of these people think that they're really, really doing the right thing, but all the money for the Nature Conservancy, the Prince's Trust, the National Wildlife Fund, all these things come from elitist bucks. These things are financed by elitist bucks. Of course, they use most of their money in advertising to get you to give more of your hard-earned dollars so they can create nice little, turn our parks into nice little UN biospheres, Steve. They're biospheres
and
now.
You know what?
And we have to have a buffer zone around them also, so we have to buy up all that land and include. Of course.
And I think it's important to note too that myself anyway, I'm of the opinion, particularly here locally, when we saw the $65 million land grab that the city did, or buying the rights to development.
Are you talking about the Brody track?
Exactly. With that being recently passed, I think it's important to know if these individuals would just be true leaders and stand up and say, we want to buy this land because we want to drive development downtown where we can more heavily regulate, where we can have the tax money, because out in those outlying areas, see, they wouldn't get the tax benefits from out there. They wouldn't get the control that they get downtown. I just wish once these leaders would just tell you the truth to your face and say that the reason we bought the development rights is we want the development to occur downtown where we can tax it left and right. If they would just stand up and tell the truth about it. I mean, we hear this on radio stations all over, that if these people would just stand up and tell the truth, you could at least respect them. And I'll talk about that later on. I heard on a talk radio program today that one of the district attorney's little minions came out and said that you don't have a right to socialize, that the Supreme Court has ruled that you don't have a right to socialize. You only have a right to be with your family and to get with others to petition the government for redress of grievances. But again, speaking of rights being taken away, I noticed you've got an article there about young people's right to travel.
Young people's right to travel. Here's an article from the July 1st Austin American Statesman. I'm sorry, and it's about tobacco. It says shows the new billboard. The picture here says if you're under 18, tobacco has serious side effects, and it shows a kid's driver's license. You can't really see it down here, but it shows a kid's driver's license with suspended. There it is. There we go. Suspended written across it. If you're under 18, tobacco has serious side effects. Well, it sure does. They're trying to make it illegal like drugs. And now don't misunderstand me. Tobacco is not a. I don't promote the use of tobacco, although I myself am a smoker. What can you say after that? Yeah, I'm dumb. I'm still smoking. Not as much as I used to, though. Don't you want to hear some more platitudes? Hold on.
Right.
But so I don't promote tobacco smoking, especially for young people. I mean, tobacco's bad for you. Young, old, in between, male, female, it doesn't matter. It's bad for you. But when they've been so heavily marketing to the younger audiences, and I mean, you know, the Joe Camel and all that, that's true. These are all aimed, and their own documents show, they're all aimed at kids 12 to 18. All this marketing was aimed at those kids. Well, now that they've started smoking, hey, I know, let's restrict their right to travel. Let's say that if they get caught with tobacco products and they're under 18, well, then they have to give up their driver's license, and they can no longer freely travel about. And you can't, without ID, without a driver's license, you know, as you well know, you can't cash a check. You not only can't travel, there's a lot of things you can't do without.
But I'm a little confused. I always hear the term privilege, though. I thought driving was a privilege. That's what we're told by our government, various governmental systems. Driving's not a right, it's a privilege.
Well, all the bureaucrats will tell you that everything is a privilege. I mean, we're so lucky to have them. If you ask them, they'll tell you that, Steve.
Yes,
I mean,
matter of fact,
so
I pointed out about 15 different wonderful things that our federal government does to protect us from the time you wake up in the morning to the time you drive down the road.
In your speech on the 4th of July. I like that. That was great. I would like to see that. I really enjoyed that.
For a lot of people who don't know, and this is a fact, I'm in the building industry, and this is an absolute fact. You can go down and ask any builder, call Bill Milburn tomorrow, call whoever you want. For those of you who don't know, you can no longer have a 5-gallon flush toilet. It's actually an old law. If you go and purchase a new toilet, every single one of them is a 1.6-gallon tank or less, because the federal government decided that 5-gallon toilets are a thing of the past. That's way too much water. It would be wasteful. They just decided that, hey, we don't need this anymore. We'll go to 1.6-gallon flush toilets. They've also restricted the flow in your shower heads. So your federal government is protecting you from your own excrement. This is the point I've tried to make. I mean, this is where they're spending our hard-earned tax money, making sure that your business doesn't get flushed down the drain properly, because that's ultimately what happens.
Into oblivion, if you want to look at it.
That's right.
That's kind of how I look at it.
That's right. I think we've
Callers,
got...
hang on. We're going to get to your calls. We're going to get to your calls.
Matter of fact, if it's all right, I'm going to go ahead and go to a few calls right now.
Let's go.
Caller, you're on the air. Oh, wait.
Yes?
Caller, you're on the air.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm on the air?
You're on the air.
Oh, wow.
You have a question?
No.
Do you have a comment? Thanks for calling.
Okay, we'll bring up another caller. I'm a little bit new to this, so I'm learning to work around the buttons here.
We got to wait till we get a green.
Okay, actually, Mike didn't have the phones quite ready yet. We're going to bring up the next piece on this. It's very popular right now. Very popular. There's a lot of talk. There's a big buzz going on in Austin right now about what District Attorney Ronnie Earl is trying to do to our Constitution. He believes that you have constitutional rights, which I think is very interesting, because I have a copy of the Constitution. Actually, I forgot to bring it today. It's on my dresser drawer. But I have thoroughly looked through the Constitution. I see nothing in there that grants you rights. You have rights that are endowed to you by your Creator, and that the Constitution was designed to protect those rights. Those rights are unalienable, not inalienable, unalienable. And that's a very important distinction to make. They cannot be changed. You have those rights whether you choose to exercise them or not. No piece of paper grants you those rights, no person. But we see there, and I think it's important to make a distinction here too. A lot of people are talking about these gang members' rights. To me, this issue surrounding these 8 alleged gang members, this issue is about your rights. It's not about the rights of these gang members. And for those of you who don't know, let me bring you up to speed. These 8 individuals that you see their pictures there on the screen, as reported in the Austin American Statesman on Friday, July 3rd, are alleged gang members. Now, I make that distinction because, interestingly enough, through all the reports that I've read, and I heard one of the district attorney's minions on the radio today, everything that I've read, seen, and heard, not a single one of these individuals has been convicted of any of the things that they have been alleged to have partaken in. There's been all kinds of accusations made. It's all about supposition. It's all about guess. It's all about rumor. None of this has been proven. They have been arrested. Several have been arrested on multiple occasions, but again, I have heard nothing about any convictions. And we do live in a society, thank God, where the burden of proof rests with your accuser.
So far.
And I heard that district attorney's minion on today, on the news, which by the way his name's over there in my briefcase, I'll have to get it here shortly. He got on and he said that the reason they've decided to go forward with these civil injunctions, and this is not a joke, I'm not exaggerating this, he says it's too hard to prove that they're committing crimes. It's too difficult. The burden of proof is too difficult. so that they're going to civil injunctions because it's much easier to get punishment through the civil courts than it is through the criminal courts. I wonder why that is, sir. I wonder why that is. But let me tell you what's going on here. These 8 people are alleged gang members. They're alleged to have committed many crimes. And who is it that's alleging this? According to that district attorney's minion, he said that it came from some neighborhood meetings that they attended, some other citizens accusing these people. They didn't go down into the police station apparently or file any formal complaints. They just said at a neighborhood meeting, these are bad kids and they're gang members and they're bothering me. So then the gang task force got involved and started documenting this alleged behavior, and they signed affidavits. These drug task force agents signed affidavits, and they're using strictly those affidavits and the comments from the neighborhood meetings to file injunctions against these 8 people. The injunctions are to get them declared a public nuisance, and once they are declared a public nuisance, there will be roughly 17 prohibited activities. That is, the county is saying, I believe it's the county, the district attorney is saying that they will be prohibited from participating in 17 different activities. Among them, and let me read verbatim from the Austin American Statesman article here, and this has been confirmed through what the district attorney said on the radio today, that the petition seeks to prevent them from congregating in groups of 2 or more in a specified area. Among the 17 prohibited activities are standing, sitting, walking, driving, gathering, or appearing in public with another one of the 8 or with any other known member of the gang in which they allegedly belong. Golly, even the statesman got the alleged part right. They cannot possess, use, deliver narcotics or drug paraphernalia. Of course, that's already against the law.
Hopefully not.
They cannot possess pagers or beepers in public. This is another prohibited activity.
No communication devices.
That's right, just for alleged activity. None of this, again, no convictions. They haven't gone before a jury, nothing.
You mean alleged activity for these suspects.
For these 8 people,
Suspects.
That's right. They cannot communicate with anyone in a vehicle. Did you hear what I just said? They cannot communicate with anyone in a vehicle. Now, communicate, that could be
a wave.
That's a communication.
A nod.
You
do this.
That's right.
Hey,
That's a wink. Can't wink with anyone in a car now. They can't obstruct traffic, which of course that's against the law anyway.
Right.
Use gang hand signs.
Are those some?
I don't know. That's a good question. What is a gang hand symbol? Maybe this is a gang hand symbol, saluting the flag.
Anything they do could be misconstrued
Maybe that's a gang.
Communicating.
That's what I'm saying. This is where I'm going with this. What constitutes a gang? What constitutes a gang symbol? You know, for a short time, I always tell people I wasn't in the military, I was in the Air Force. And when I was in the Air Force, I had to salute the flag. Now you tell me, maybe that's a gang symbol. Maybe a good salute is a gang symbol. What about the colors? We all wore green. We all wore BDUs. Maybe those could be construed as gang colors. I mean, there's no legal definition of any of this stuff, and that's where I'm concerned where a lot of this is going. I'm not talking about these alleged gang members' rights. I'm talking about your rights. This deals with your rights. They can't use abusive language? Damn. They can't use abusive language. They can't threaten, harass, or intimidate people, of course. Again, that's already against the law.
Right.
Or prevent others from complaining to the police. The injunction would also prohibit them from going to, I believe it's three specifically named convenience stores. This is absolutely amazing to me. And on this radio program that I listened to today, that district attorney's spokesperson, whatever it was, went so far as to say, and I'm going to get you this audio tape, I'm going to get with Shannon Burke, it was his show, and try and get a copy of this audio tape and put it on our website at downsize.ml.org. Real audio, I'm going to try and put that on here and try and play it on this show, The Freedom Report, next week. He said, at least he came out and said it, that you don't have a right to socialize. He said you only have a right to be with your family members and to get with others to petition the government for a redress of your grievances. And you know how he came to this conclusion? He said the Supreme Court ruled this way. Well, I had a question for him, and I wish they would have put calls through to him because I would have asked him, you tell me, sir, where does it say in the Constitution that the Supreme Court has the right or the legal authority to rule on anything? It's not in there because they don't have that right. Sir, we live in a republic. The Constitution that I have read says that we are guaranteed a Republican form of government. Now, that's not Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative. That is a specific form of government. And among other things with that specific form of government, the only people that gets to decide what's constitutional or not, or how the Constitution is interpreted, is you and I, the governed. That's what part of a republic is all about. It is a government that governs with the consent of the governed. And the governed get to decide. They get to pick and choose how the Constitution is to be interpreted. And how do they get to pick and choose that? I can hear the skeptics right now. Steve, how do you propose you do this? That's why we have the jury system. Juries are supposed to decide. That's one of the checks and balances on the powers of the government. If there's a law that the jury feels is unconstitutional, they can overrule a judge. They can overrule legislators. They can overrule governors. They are the sovereign. They are the most powerful people in a sovereign Republican form of government. They are the sovereigns. They are the kings. They get to decide how that Constitution is to be interpreted, not Supreme Court justices. But of course, he's not going to know that because he was taught law from a bar association. He was taught a law from a law school who kowtow to the bar associations, and we all know from people like R.C. Crawford how corrupt that system is, how corrupt our legal system is, that you can't sue these people anymore. They claim sovereign immunity and all sorts of other things, which we ought to try and get him to be a guest on the show. He spells it out in very plain language. So I say to that person, I say to Ronnie Earl, we have rights as a result of our Creator. We are endowed by our Creator with unalienable rights. No piece of paper can give those to us nor take them away. No Supreme Court justice. No person can take those away. So you, sir, are wrong. The Supreme Court can rule whatever they want, but I rule the Supreme Court. Rusty rules the Supreme Court. Mike Hanson rules the Supreme Court. These gang members, or these alleged gang members, as long as they're not participating in illegal activities, get to rule over the Supreme Court. That's what the facts are. You, sir, go home and read your Constitution and study it carefully, because obviously it means nothing to him or any of these people, but at least they have the guts to come out and say it. You don't have a right to socialize people. It's out there in your face now. You can't deny it.
Well, now, Steve, I have a question. You don't have a right to socialize? Let's see. You only have a right to gather with your family or to redress grievances?
That's what the Supreme Court justices have ruled in case law.
Well,
apparently there are rulers.
What's the first thing you noticed that was missing? So we have no right to gather in church?
Very interesting.
We have no right to gather in church. We have no, if we're Catholic, we have no right to gather at the Catholic Church. If we're Baptist, we have no right to gather there. Pentecostal, whatever you happen to be. You have no right to gather. Wouldn't that be social? Wouldn't that be? I mean, that's religion. I understand, but
I'd like to know what you think. If it's all right, we've got some calls here ready. I'd like to take some quick calls on this issue. This is a hot button issue right now.
Can't do it. Can't do it. I know, can't do it.
Why? Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
That toilet situation you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, hey, I don't exactly see what's wrong with that the government is deciding to regulate it.
I'm not sure what you mean by that. What you think it's okay for the federal government to regulate how much water is held in the tank of your toilet? I'm curious about that. I don't know if he hung up or what, but apparently we've lost that caller. Let me bring up our next caller. Caller, go ahead.
Love your show. I've seen you at the Texas Best Seminars a couple times, and
thank you.
And I think this is real empowering to watch your show. You guys see a lot of good things, that are based on documentable proof, on facts, and not on fear and emotion and things that we see on the other side. I'm originally from Atlanta, and we don't get much of the libertarian movement up there. At least we don't hear much about it because the mainstream press won't say much about it. But let me tell you something. Talk to people here in Texas and in Atlanta, Georgia, and they may not call themselves libertarian, but they sure do agree with maybe 99.99% of it. They just don't know exactly what libertarianism is.
Oh, let's face it. The hardest part, I think, for people to swallow, including myself, is the Libertarian Party's stance on drugs. I think it's been a sticky situation for them. I think to be a true diehard libertarian, you do have to recognize that There's a lot of things in our society that can be dangerous. You know, gasoline can be dangerous if it's used improperly. There's all sorts of household chemicals that can be dangerous. We've seen what we know what fertilizer can do if it's misused. And I think to be truly libertarian, you have to be willing to say, well, are we willing to go so far as to say, well, drugs should be illegal? I mean, drugs, it's the abuse of drugs that's the problem. Drugs can be used for good things. For the longest time, there were types of cocaine that were used to help numb your mouth when they would do oral surgery, things of that nature. And I think it's difficult to, it's a sticky situation. It is for me too. I'm not sure that I'm willing to say that we should decriminalize drugs. I like to say that most of my beliefs fall in line with those of the libertarian platform and what libertarians espouse. The idea that, hey, you're free to do what you want as long as you don't infringe on your neighbor's rights or anyone else's rights. But it is
bring up
tough.
a couple other things.
What's that?
I'm not quite sure the executive order. I think it's 13086, federalism.
Federalism, I've read
Have you
it.
been reading about that?
Yes, there is a buzz, the likes of which I've never seen on the internet right now.
Well, as a result of that, sorry to interrupt, but as a result of that, the White House has been catching so much flack. You go to the White House webpage now and search for that executive order, and it won't exist. It's not even there.
You know what's interesting about that is a couple weeks ago, I first got that executive order through an email. And by the way, we want to get to some other callers, so I'm going to let you go here and answer your question.
Thanks for calling.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I went to the White House website a couple weeks ago because I actually got emailed that executive order, and I'm always really suspicious oftentimes of things on the internet unless I pull it from the actual site that supposedly... So, for example, if there's an executive order, I tend not to believe it until I actually get it from the White House website or some other governmental website. If somebody just emails it to me, I'm somewhat suspicious. But somebody emailed me that executive order. I went to the White House website, and it was one of the top 3 little highlighted, like, oh, this is the really hot news right now, things on the White House website. So I think it's pretty interesting that you say that that now you can't even get it off the White House website. Mike was queuing up some tape there. There was an article in the, I believe it's called the Capital Times, about Comptroller John Sharp. And he's talking about safety in school. And I'm just going to get through this real quick here, that among other things in this special report that John Sharp is backing and asking schools to partake in, that some of the specific proposals in the program that he's touting are unannounced locker inspections for children in our schools, fenced playgrounds, alarm systems, closed secondary campuses to increase school security, all in the name of security. And what's the problem with this? I hear a lot of skeptics out there, and they say, Steve, schools can be a dangerous place nowadays. There's people with guns, there's kids with guns coming to school, there's adults with guns coming to school. We need police in our schools to keep our children safe. We need to do these random searches to keep our children safe. In my mind, this is a knee-jerk reaction. And I'll tell you why. I look at the long term. You're right. In the short term, it might be a little bit safer for these kids in the very, very short term. But number one, who's to protect these kids from the police? Number two, kids grow up and be what? Adults. I'll give you the perfect example. There's a young man I work with, very bright, very intelligent, getting ready to go off to college. He went to Lake Travis High School, and he told me, Steve, what's the big deal? I've always had a policeman and a drug dog at my school. Now, what concerns me there is just that attitude. If these kids grow up seeing police everywhere, I mean just every 100 feet or so, if they're used to the police going through their personal items, if they're used to cameras like you're seeing on the screen there, if they're used to dogs sniffing their things, if they're used to people randomly going through their items, their personal items, what kind of adults are they going to make? What happens when they own a house or rent an apartment and a sheriff stands up and says, the drug war, it's so out of control now, we have to do door-to-door searches. And I hear people going, Steve, come on, that's ridiculous. But you know what? 20 years ago, if you'd have stood up and said, we need police in our schools and drug dogs and random locker searches, you'd have been a fool. People would have laughed at you. They just said, that's ridiculous. There's no need for that. Our kids are safe. There's no problem with that. Now, it's in vogue. Now, hell, you could practically get elected off of it. You could run for office based on the fact that you want to stick a cop in every school. I mean, we go and beg. We saw our county sheriff, she's actually done some things that I agree with, but we've seen her down at Commissioner's Court begging for federal dollars to put sheriffs in high schools, which is just another problem all on its own. You could spend hours and hours just on that, the kind of federal control. And I just think we're playing a dangerous game with this knee-jerk reaction to get kids used to having police everywhere, used to having their things gone through, used to seeing military-style police, used to having drug dogs going through their stuff, random searches.
Conditioning.
What kind of adults are they going to make?
Conditioning. I mean, it's a conditioning thing. They're conditioning them so when they are adults and they have their own places, when the forces that be roll up with their dogs and their machine guns and everything, it's no big deal. Oh, hi, come on in. Yeah, no problem. You don't need rights. We'll take care of you. Don't worry about that. We'll take care of everything. You don't need rights.
And that's what scares me, is that they're going to grow up as adults and they're not going to see a problem with this because they're not taught the Constitution anymore. No. They're not taught that we're guaranteed a Republican form of government. What are they taught? They're taught UN class. We've documented that. I went down with Alex Jones to the University of Texas campus, and we documented the Model United Nations Club, how they have their little get-together, and people actually stood up and advocated having a United Nations class in school. I say, hey, how about having like a class on America first, or the Constitution, before we start talking about United Nations and globalism?
Steve, I got to tell you, one of the things that bothers me the most is they're basically being trained to not ask questions.
That's right.
Here is your work assignment. Well, what about, do your work.
Yeah.
Just do your work. I mean, I have several stories. I have several stories from local high schools about people asking questions, students asking questions and being basically either embarrassed in front of their peers so that they won't speak up anymore, or being told that that's not in our lesson. I mean, whatever happened to asking questions? Whatever happened to an inquiring mind? That's a growing, learning mind. An inquiring mind, an inquisitive mind is a good, healthy thing. If I was a teacher, if I was a real teacher, man, I'd get real excited if my students started asking questions. That would mean that I am doing my job.
You're inspiring
and doing
them.
it well. I'm inspiring them to ask, to dig, to know.
Formulate their own opinion.
To learn.
Interrupt, but we need to get to the 24, KI, all them pieces.
I think it's important to note, too. I think it's important to note a good distinction that you had there. That what's going on here is you said something about these kids being conditioned. It doesn't matter, and I think this is important, it doesn't matter whether someone intentionally is trying to condition the children. The simple fact is the children are being conditioned. These are young adults, they're children, they're going to grow up and be adults, and they're going to be conditioned. That is, used to the idea, having police everywhere, military-style police, and
carrying IDs, which, by the way, we're going to do a story on this. This is the only ID they need with a barcode and a magnetic strip on it. They know where they're supposed to be, where they are, what they should be doing, who they are. They know everything. They're getting it's the one card. It's the smart thing to do, isn't it, America? No, it's not.
All right, since we have so much stuff to get to, we were just reminded a second ago, we've got the news pieces here of the Independence Day celebration. You're going to see here the different versions. I believe it's KI 24 is going to be first. I think he has...
24 is actually KVUE, so I'm not sure
I think you're right.
I
think it's KVUE first, then KI, then I think News 36. Mike, there's that ID card up close.
There's one of the IDs. Now, you can't see the magnetic strip, but you can see the barcode and the picture and the photograph. And you're supposed to display this. They're supposed to wear these and display them at all times.
Well, why don't they just get one embedded in their hand? Or maybe their forehead or something.
Hey, what a great
idea. Here we go. We got this piece right here ready to go. All right, this is KV24 first.
Losing our sovereignty. We don't like this flag.
Local television host Alex Jones and nearly 3 dozen others protested in front of the state capitol today. They object to what they believe is a loss of America's sovereignty to the United Nations. The group's members say the 4th is a perfect time to tell the public about a growing threat of a new world order.
Many gather downtown to protest what they call a lie of current freedom in America. The event was led by international shortwave radio host Jeff Davis. The protest was held on the Capitol grounds. The combination of the holiday weekend.
By burning a flag on Independence Day, Ener is trying to shed light on the plight of America's poor and their lack of economic freedom.
I see myself as doing my duty, whether it's pleasant or not, you know. And it's not that pleasant, you know. But depending on what kind of a conscience you've got, you know, I mean, you do what you think you have to do.
For doing what he did in front of the state capitol, Ener was taken into custody for setting a fire, not for burning the flag.
Freedom in progress.
He was released a few minutes later. Speakers say Independence Day is the perfect time to bring their message to Americans.
We're not going to perpetrate the lie that we're free and independent. We're countering the fact that thousands of people are going to be down here at Town Lake, you know, drinking their beer and watching the fireworks when we've got, you know, our Bill of Rights essentially has been flushed down the toilet.
The one thing that most people like
was the reporter I talked about earlier, Rich Parsons. That was a picture of him. I'll have to get that scanned to our website. If you don't like the way that that story was done, the way they, again, lumped it in together, where visually, I think, people are given the impression that the people celebrating freedom, that the people celebrating what freedom we have left in this country, celebrating Independence Day, were lumped in with this flag burning. I personally, I don't like the way that was done. If you don't like the way that was done, if you don't like the news that's being broadcast on KXAN 36, call that number, 476-2863. Ask for Bruce Whitaker, the news director. Tell them what type of information you'd like to see. Tell them that if you don't start seeing this kind of information, this very important information, things on the Federal Reserve, on FLIR footage of snipers using automatic weapons fire to gun people down running from a burning church, tell them you want to see that news, and if you don't start seeing it, you're going to stop buying products of their sponsors. I think it's important to make that note. And there he is. There's Rich. Hello, Rich. Mr. Rich, I can't answer questions. I only can ask them.
I can only ask them, not answer them.
We can't say that. Take that one thing back. We can't say not to buy them.
Okay.
And if you don't like it, and while you're there, if you do own a business, if you're a business owner, if you're a business person here in Austin, and you know that you're not getting the news, you're getting this little pre-packaged, pre-prepared entertainment with a little news sprinkled in here and there that's not of much importance, why don't you mention that to them? Why don't you mention that to them? Say, you know, I would advertise on your station if you ever showed real news. Why don't you mention that to them too, if you like?
I think next we have ready, and callers, by the way, hang on, we got just a couple more articles to get to, and then we're going to take a bunch of calls. I live out in Marble Falls, Texas.
Oh, this is great.
Just out west of Marble Falls is a little town called Granite Shoals. Interestingly enough, in Granite Shoals here just this past week, a warrantless task force inspected a Granite Shoals home. There's a businessman, his name, Frank Wilson, and his wife Cheryl. They have, I wouldn't quite call it a home-based business, but kind of for odds and ends, for extra money, he converts old cars and fixes them up. He was visited, and this is in Burnett County, by the way, Granite Shoals, Texas, Burnett County. There he is right there, and his wife, looking awfully dazed and confused, I might add. They were visited by the Travis County Auto Theft Task Force.
Now, excuse me, this is Burnett County?
Yes, and they were visited by the Travis County Auto Theft Task Force. The Travis County Auto Theft Task Force visited them with sidearms, I might add, firearms, many of them in trucks, he says, and searched his home, went through his trash, went through his garage, took apart his cars for over 6 hours. He had no warrant. He did not identify himself. This is Detective Chris Horton of the Travis County Auto Theft Task Force. Didn't identify himself, had no warrant, said that he had a right to be there, and I quote, "We're allowed to go out and do salvage inspections if we see vehicles at various stages of disassembly." So apparently, the Travis County Auto Theft Task Force, if your tire is off your car perhaps, you're changing your car, he has a right, he thinks, to go inspect your home and go through your trash for 6 hours without identifying himself or providing a warrant.
Even if you live in something that is not his jurisdiction.
That's right. You don't even have to live inside Travis County, apparently, you can be out and burn. And let me read a couple of quotes here from the newspaper. And by the way, I want to commend the Highlander newspaper over in Marble Falls, Texas, for reporting of this type. And I'll talk about an editorial here in a moment. This is what news is meant to be. This is what the press is all, the real press is all about. Quote here from Detective Horton. The way I look at it is, the people that are good people and not doing something wrong, then they should thank us. And if they are crooks, then who cares? Again, I can't stress that. It doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter who you are, if you're a citizen even in this jurisdiction. If you're a good person, what do you have to be afraid of? If you're a bad person, who cares? They didn't find any contrabands on their property, didn't find them in violation of any laws. Some other quick quotes here. The Granite Shoals police were very upset that they weren't notified about this inspection. Mr. Horton's response was, when we go out to do an inspection, we try to make a courtesy phone call to the local agency. We didn't call the local agency there, and I quote, because we didn't know where we were. We're going to give this guy a badge and a gun. He doesn't even know where he's at. This is ridiculous.
He didn't realize he'd strayed 20 miles outside his
jurisdiction. He later added that he knew only that he was in Burnett County. So let's give this guy a badge and a gun. Let him go enforce laws. Finally here, he says that he usually makes it a point to leave his business card, a little calling card behind after ransacking your house without a warrant. After an inspection, he said, I don't remember if I did there. I don't remember the man's name. What a nice guy. And I think it's important to note that Richard Stone, the editor of the Highlander, did a wonderful editorial. And he said, among other things, that a police state mentality seems to have descended upon our society. He also noted that already the Department of Public Safety will take a digital image of your thumbprint when you renew your driver's license and insist that you record your Social Security number. That is fantastic. I called Richard, told him I didn't realize he was such an evil right-wing extremist. He probably drinks blood for dinner, too.
Richard, way too
And there was one other quick thing here. There was another editorial about the fact that there is a war going on in Mexico. So leave it to a small-town newspaper to report real news when the mainstream press here in Austin, the Austin American Statesman, doesn't even concern themselves with real issues.
Well, the statesman's scared to death of guys like this, independent newspapers that don't have to read off of the prompter and don't have to just print whatever they've given to print. Here's your story for today.
I just can't believe in the week that we celebrate our independence from tyrannical governments, we have our rights being violated across the board. We have a district attorney here in Travis County who says you don't have a right to socialize. I'm quoting him. He said, you don't have a right to socialize. The Supreme Court has ruled. Like they're kings or something. I'm sorry, I'm a sovereign, you're a sovereign, Mike's a sovereign. We rule in this country. We live in a Republican form of government. We rule here. And then we see task forces going out of their jurisdictions and rifling through people's stuff without any warrants or probable cause. We're going to get to an audio tape here of Alex Jones on his radio show, The Real Spin. He called to complain about, there he is, lovely Rich Parsons. He called to complain about Rich Parsons. He called to complain about producer Richard Collison. And here's what we ended up with.
Now I'm going to go ahead and I am going to call down to KXAN 36 and ask them about this. And find out exactly what Richard Polson, the head guy down there at this time of day,
Okay, I think it's important to note, too, sorry, we're having a little bit of problem with the audio. I think it's important to note, too, in this last call that you're going to hear, I want you to notice the similarity of the voice between the last call, the person claiming not to be Richard Collison, the KXAN News 36 producer, and the first guy who says he is Richard Collison. I submit that it's the exact same person, that was Richard Collison lying. He denies, and he says that he's not Richard Collison, and that Richard Collison is in fact not there. So if we've got that tape ready now, let's listen to that.
Exactly what their stance is, because I talked to my producer, Mike Hanson, who actually talked to Richard Polson. I talked to him during the last break, and he said that Richard Polson said, I meant to do that. I meant to associate that flag story with that flag story, and I'm not retracting it. That's fine. You'll wish you never heard the end of it, Mr. Polson, because I'm not going to put up with that garbage if you did the story, which you say you did. Just go to this and dial. Okay, here we go. Sitting here waiting for someone to answer. They probably aren't going to answer. Our office hours are closed. Thank you for calling. We're busy doing the news right now. We're telling you how to cook chicken and mow your yard. Important things. We're real news people. Shouldn't have announced it 100 times and then called. That's ridiculous.
Use 36.
Hey, this is Alex Jones, and I would like to talk to Richard Polson, if that's okay.
This is Richard Collison.
Oh, is it Collison?
Collison.
Collison. I was told Polson. I hear someone cackling in the background. Well, great, sir. We didn't burn a flag today.
Right, and we didn't say that you did. I really don't have time to discuss this with you because we have another newscast in just a few minutes.
You have an important newscast? Oh, he's so cool. Here, I'll call back. What a great guy. He's never going to hear the end of me. Here, let me do that one more time. Okay, now I got to dial tone. I've got a newscast to get ready for. I've got to go. Thank you very much. Click. No.
36, how can I help you?
Yes, my name's Alex Jones. I was trying to talk to Richard Colson, and I was hung up on after about 6 seconds of talking to him.
Okay.
I'm doing a live radio broadcast right now, and we were there shredding a UN flag approximately, I guess, 3 hours after some lone kook.
Sir?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't mean to cut you off. I am so sorry. I am getting ready for the newscast, and we've taken several calls about the story that you guys were talking about earlier. Richard is the producer of the show, and he's doing the newscast right now. But if you call back at about 10:30, he should be finished with the show.
Okay, well,
Can you do that?
Yes, here's my question to you.
Okay.
I understand you're busy. I want to speak to him, and I'll be congenial if he's congenial to me.
Okay.
But the point I have to make is I do not like being associated with some kook burning a flag, and then suddenly it cuts to me alone, not showing the crowd and making me look like, oh, it's kook hour. One kook doing this, one kook doing that.
Okay.
All these kooks out shredding precious flags.
Sir?
I wouldn't touch. Yes, ma'am.
I understand what you're saying, but like I said, Richard is the producer, and so I really can't do anything about that.
Is he going to retract
He would
it?
definitely be the person to talk to, and if you call back at 10:30, he can gladly help you, I'm sure. Like I said, the reason I'm being short right now is because I'm in the middle of working on the newscast.
Ma'am, I really appreciate
and so
your
if
help.
you call back at 10:30, 10:35, he should be available. But right now, I'm like hooked up to lights and microphones and other things, and there's not much I can do. I'm sorry
Ma'am,
about
thank you
that.
so much for your help.
Oh, no problem. Just call back after the newscast, and that's the best time to catch him.
I'm sorry for the inconvenience.
Oh, no problem.
Have a great evening.
Okay, you too.
Yeah, I'm going to call back at 10:30. There we go. Have a time and I'll get one for you. Not enough time on a 4-hour program. This is The Real Spin. You're listening to 98.9 KJFK FM. We're going to ask them about a story they did on me today where they showed some guy 3 hours before with no one.
He was 36.
Yes, is Mr. Colson there?
No, I'm sorry, he's not. May I take a message?
Yes, I was told that he would be able to talk to me after 10:30.
I'm sorry, he's gone. Would you like to call back tomorrow?
Sure. What's your name, sir? My name is Alex Jones. We're doing a live radio show. Oh, that was nice.
That was him.
Was it?
Yeah.
How lovely. Sounded just like him. Oh, that's interesting. I'm just trying to talk to somebody. I guess wrong person. Well, again, this program is every Saturday evening from 7 to 11 p.m.
Yeah, there at the end, we stopped it short. They didn't answer that last call finally, but I think it's important to know.
Exactly like the
That's
same
what I'm
guy to
saying.
me.
I mean, I didn't have a voice analyzation data or anything like that.
Did
but
you
to
need
me,
one?
no, I don't think that required. I think it's indicative of the type. This is a producer. I mean, this is a guy that decides what kind of news goes on KXAN News 36. His name is Richard Collison. Call that number we put up on the slate earlier. Tell KXAN News 36 Richard Collison has no business washing cars or cutting grass, even, if you ask me, if that's the type of mentality, if that's the type of intelligence he's dealing with. And for him to pick and choose the kind of news that's coming out is just, it's deplorable. So it's important that you call KXAN News 36, tell them how you feel, tell them you want to see real news, that you're not appreciative of citizens. Because you'll notice, Alex was very polite and kind, I thought. He was stuck to the facts. There was no name calling, nothing of that sort. And to be treated that way is horrible. Do you have any other comments about that?
Not really. I mean, what can you say? I mean, we know it's controlled. We know that the media is controlled, and we already know this. So what can you say? We're going to get another disgusting thing that...
I want to try and get to some calls here real quick. Mike queues up a piece on I believe it's some biometrics that CBS apparently came from a CBS station. So we're going to take a few calls here. Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yes, I had a comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
About the White House webpage. I'm looking at it right now. And there is one executive order I see.
Is it? What's the number on it?
It's I don't know, but it says you're a jackass.
Well, thank you, caller.
All righty then.
Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead. Hello. Hello, caller. I might have accidentally dumped him. Let me go to this other line. Caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, hi, Steve.
Yes.
How you doing today?
Pretty good.
Yeah, I've just finished reading Tony Brown's Empower the People.
I want to get that. Is it good?
Oh, it's very good. It raises some strikingly difficult questions about, he puts it in perspective. I mean, I've been listening to you and Alex and Jeff Davis and everything for, a year and a half now, and it puts it in perspective of an evil empire that's ruling this world.
The reviews that I read of it is that he footnotes all his documentation very well, so you can look it up for yourself.
Footnotes, yeah, correct.
That is so important, because that to me is an individual who absolutely believes in what they're saying and is telling you the truth, because they're telling, in essence, that is a roundabout way of saying, hey, don't take my word for it. Go look it up for yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
But go ahead. What you had talked about some of the. I don't get so much into the conspiracy end of it. So I'm very interested in getting this book and reading it, because I just kind of look at what the results of some of these things are, whether the intentions are that or not. I just kind of a results-oriented person. But tell us a little bit about that.
Well, basically, in May 1st, 1776, what was his name? But the Order of the Illuminati was created by Adam Weishaupt. Yes, correct. And through the years, it's proliferated into mainly the Freemasonry movement here in the United States. And personally, my grandfather is a 33rd degree Freemason, Knights Templar, and it's pretty strikingly that I've never, it's very secret, and I've never known anything about this until recently. After I read this book, I confronted him, and he was very cold and oppressive towards me, and it draws some questions.
Really? So, no, wait, do I understand you correctly? You said you had asked your grandfather about some of this information?
Correct, yes. He's a 33rd degree Freemason.
And you said he kind of pulled back and wasn't...
he pretty much told me, like how you get some of these crazy callers calling in telling that you're full of crap. That's basically what he told me.
Huh.
It's pretty striking.
I must admit, there have been times where I've had some differences of opinion with family members of my own, but I'm a little bit surprised that you elicited that kind of response from him.
Oh, I mean, yeah, he's coming down here in October. I mean, my father was put into the... before you become a Mason, when you're a kid, there's another order, too, that they put you into.
Demolay?
Yes, correct. And he dropped out of that. He didn't like all the secret handshakes and rituals and chants and all the crap they were doing. And it's pretty scary stuff. No one knows about it at all. And,
well, listen, any other quick comments?
Just at the back of the dollar bill has the mark of the beast on it.
Yeah, it sure does. It sure does.
The Eye of Lucifer.
Well, listen,
the Illuminati symbol.
And the Latin around the triangle, one of the Illuminati symbols, announcing the birth of a new secular order.
Interesting.
Imagine that.
Well, listen, I appreciate your call.
On Federal Reserve money.
Alex.
What's going on, guys?
Hey,
off the radio.
We wanted to do it on the air, but unfortunately we couldn't do it. First of all, I want to congratulate you. I think it's excellent that you're going to be on KJFK every night now. So congratulations.
Yeah, 6 days a week, man.
Let freedom ring.
That's right.
Is Austin ready?
Yeah, well, there's so much to talk about and so many little machinations and things to talk about, and it's good for ratings to talk about sex and other stuff, but it's hard for me to do that because I'm obsessed with just the basic information and the lies that are out there. But I want to thank you guys. We had the TV on the whole time watching it, and I was kind of giving people a play-by-play when y'all were putting up the school ID from Bowie High School with the barcode, and they're putting cops in the schools. I mean, our children are being made to accept the police state, and everybody out there listening, you've got to get motivated. You've got power. Look what just a small group have done, the political victories we've had in Austin. We have single-handedly, with the help of the chief of police in San Antonio, stopped the Delta Force, and that's a bad freeze, guys. But I just want to thank everybody, and I want to thank Mike Hanson, and Jeff Davis did put on a great rally, very professionally done, and Keith Perry out there, micro-broadcasting. Did you know this? I haven't got a chance to talk to you, Steve.
Yes, no, I knew it.
I was listening to Rusty's speech all the way to Mopac because they were broadcasting on 95.9, known as Pirate Signal, but it wasn't conflicting with any other stations, off a little 6-foot antenna. I'm not sure how many watts, but y'all were beaming it down Congress. I'll guarantee you that if I was hearing it all the way over to Mopac, I will guarantee you that going downhill down Congress, you were beaming all the way, probably all the way down past Manchac, all the way to the end of South Lamar.
Wow. I think it's absolutely fantastic.
Oh, it's awesome. And
hey, we had a caller just a second ago, and I know you know a lot about this, so I think it'll help out. He had said that he had read Tony Brown's new book, and it talked about the Illuminati and Freemasonry. Can you touch on just a little bit about what you know about how those two are kind of interconnected? Because that's an area I'm pretty unfamiliar with.
Well, sure. I've had family that was a 33rd degree Mason. He's dead now. And he was a good person. I mean, George Washington warned us about European Freemasonry, which was infiltrated in the mid-1600s. And by 1776, Adam Weishaupt from Ingolstadt University launched a full-scale criminal program known to others as a conspiracy. You know, most of the charges of crimes are conspiracies at the federal level. That's when two or more people together devise something to defraud people, and they wanted to bring down social order and reinstate their own even more authoritarian state. Basically, it was just very intelligent, crafty, devious, organized crime. I mean, when you hear a name like Gotti or any of the classic mafia names, the reason the Italian mafia was destroyed in this country is it started getting powerful. By the mid-40s and 50s had been powerful before, and the WASP mob, people like the Bushes and the DuPonts and the Morgans and the people in the Bank of England, the Rothschilds and Rockefellers didn't appreciate having rivals that had balls, so they took them out and took over their drug dealing and you see the state taking over the gambling, and everything that supposed criminals used to do is now done by the state. And there's just so many huge lies out there that we go over and over with people. Private banks print the money. It's a 7-member board. Only 2 of them are appointed to 14-year terms. And it just goes on. And I see people like Jason Hatfield and others making little pamphlets and simple information. I mean, kids that just got out of college, but the information's factual. And this is what it takes, is people putting it on the line and finding the thrill that is there in learning and becoming an educator. And you don't have to have all the answers and be perfect. That's great.
Yeah.
All right, sorry to interrupt here. Stay tuned right here on these channels for more classics from Mike Hanson Archives. But I just want to take a moment to ask for your help to fund these channels. We are asking a $25 donation to buy my book. I wrote this book about Bohemian Grove, about when Alex Jones and I snuck into the Bohemian Grove Club, and it tells all about it. Tex Mars forwarded it. He just recently passed away, so it's becoming a real collector's item. Alex has his own chapter in this book, and it's very good, full of pictures and all sorts of things. You know, George W. Bush and his father was a member of the Bohemian Club. and Junior still is. But it's a really good, thick book. And we'd appreciate a $25 donation sent to. I will definitely sign it and send it right back to you. If you want to call us at 830-672-3089. That's my office. Just leave your name and phone number, and the secretary will call you back. And you can pay with a credit card. And if you want to write us, our address is 901 St. Joseph Street, Gonzales, Texas, 78629. Once again, send that $25 for this book right here, Bohemian Grove, Cult of Conspiracy. I wrote that book, forwarded it by Tex Mars. Alex Jones has a chapter in it, and a lot of other people. So we appreciate. Stay tuned to these local YouTube channels and Facebook and Instagram, and I'm on Twitter now too. So stay tuned for Mike Hanson Archives and all the classics. Most of these tapes are 25 years old or a little bit younger. Alrighty, thanks a lot and God bless. Please support us when you can, where you can. Here's the address one more time and the phone number, and we'll get right back to your viewing of these classics. Be sure to go to Mike Hanson Archives, Hanson Archives, and our new one, Waco Archives. Thanks a lot and God bless.
Anybody want to come up here? All right, that's it. All right, who wants to lead? Let Gene go. Go ahead. Yes, sir. All right. God bless the Republic. Yeah.